You back on?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back in our regular meeting and we'll get into some agenda items, but before we do that, we can open this up to the public input. So if anyone here or online, *6, *9 if you're on the phone, wants to jump in, either raise your hand virtually or raise your hand physically and take public input. Anyone online here? Maureen?
Yeah, well.
Your hands.
I don't see it, I don't see every raise up hands at all.
Okay, well, that gives everybody enough time. I don't see any hands raised either here or online, so we'll close public input. First agenda item is Sheriff Rigby, you're on the line. I think I see you there. Yeah, hey, hi Sheriff, how are you? So you're gonna lead us through a open discussion here with council on the services that we've already agreed to last month in the renewal of the contract, but I thought you could just touch base on anything you'd like to add, because we weren't able to get you online in the last meeting. And two, we'd love to hear about your ideas to create a presence within using our facilities here for one of your team members one of your patrolmen to certainly use our facilities. So love to hear any of your ideas as how we can, how we can work together better.
Yes, thank you. It's good to be with everyone. So Jared Rigby, I serve at the Sheriff's Office, and I just wanted to welcome anyone are there any new council people here for the first time tonight after being sworn in?
Two.
Awesome. Great. Well, so I don't mind the public having this number, and so I'll give it to you and anyone else that happens to be listening. But this is my cell phone number. The mayor gets hold of me and gives us direction on whatever we need. But in times of emergency or something's happening on your street and you need some help, you're welcome to call. My cell phone number is 435-671-6421. And so call anytime on that. Okay, well, thank you for a few minutes this evening. I was hoping first to talk about our contract that needs to be renewed. And so far, both us as the Sheriff's Office and you as Hideout have just wanted to do 1 year at a time. And so know that in the future, if we want to be doing something different, then let's talk some more about that. I think that we're getting to the point that we can entertain that and make plans for the future if that's something that works for you. But a 1 year law enforcement services agreement. Now we call it an additional. We call it a contract for additional law enforcement services because we owe you a basic level of law enforcement services. And so that is through the general fund of the county. And when homeowners are paying their property taxes, and then that goes to the county general fund. And when the sheriff's office receives their funding for the year, then that portion of the general funds allows us to serve everyone in the county. And so that of course, involves Hideout. And so we could talk more if you'd like about kind of basic services versus additional. But the bottom line here is that uh, the town has seen some value from what they say in having us devote a certain amount of time each month, and that is currently about 50 hours a month to traffic enforcement, to truck enforcement, helping with vehicles that are parked on both sides of narrow roads so that we can get emergency vehicles through. And then when the mayor gives us some specific direction on something, then we try to help with that as well. And so we try to be flexible and fluid on those things also. So we're able to, on a regular basis, provide you numbers, stats of things that are going on in Hideout, if that's something that you would like. And we usually leave names out, but other than that, you can see how many of the different incidents are might be happening at Todd Hollow or versus 248 versus down by the state park, things like that, so that you feel aware of what's going on. And then we also want to be responsive and open to working with you. And so when you call, then we want to help with those things. When it comes to the contract to be renewed, the only change would be to the cost. It really is just the cost of vehicle and fuel and those kinds of things. And so the increase is $4,000. It's last year's contract was $80,000, and this year's is 84, and that just reflects a 5.5% interest that all of the county employees received, 2.5% interest, cost of living. And then our grade and step wage program moves every year 2.5%. And so those two things together is the 5.5, and that accounts for the increase, so that we're paying the deputies the same regardless of what where they're at in the county. Any questions about law enforcement contracts, or this one specifically that I
Sorry, this is
help
Tanya. I
with?
just want to make sure I understood. So you're saying it's 50 hours a month, so that's $600 or 600 hours a year. So at 84,000, that's $140 an hour. Is that the
It
way I
is
should
about
think
that.
about it? Yeah.
Exactly, yes.
And okay, and are you able to disclose what you pay your sheriffs? Like, I'm trying to understand the profit margin that's in that,
Yeah,
or
you
how I
got it.
should think about it.
Yeah, so we could break it down. This is an average of all of them. But overall, yes, we do have a spreadsheet of costs that we can send to you that has the averages of wage, their health insurance, the vehicle, the fuel, the equipment that the deputy wears, and also the equipment that goes on the vehicle. So yes, if that's something you would like, we've already got it prepared.
And then do you provide the town with kind of a monthly report of how many tickets you've issued or how many calls you've made, kind
Yeah.
of supporting the 50 hours, or how does that work? Just so I understand.
So I meet with the mayor regularly, and that's usually face to face. So that's one way. Another way is I'm happy to come attend town councils, and I can bring on a regular basis um, whatever stats or paperwork uh, suits you best. We do have some kind of canned reports that we don't even have to really, you know, recreate ourselves. They're just incident reports, um, numbers of traffic stops, numbers of citations. All of those things are definitely fair game, and we're
Yeah,
just writing
I'd
all.
love to see that. I mean, obviously I live in the community and I see a number of violations every day, particularly with the construction workers. So I would like to see the numbers of tickets that are getting issued in connection with the 50 hours of service.
Yeah, great.
So you're talking about an additional 50 hours of service that you provide beyond what you would normally provide?
That's right. Yes.
So all these things that you've talked about, you don't provide in other communities? Or if you do, you charge extra for them?
That's right. We do our best to get into all of the cities, towns, and the unincorporated area as well. And do regular patrols and also do traffic enforcement. We spend most of our time responding to calls, meaning calls of service. So when residents are at their home and they have a problem, an issue, maybe it's a medical, maybe it's just a question that they have, maybe it's an argument. Um, those are the calls for service that we spend most of our time responding to. And there is a report for that as well, so that you can see see what's usually occurring in Hideout.
Is there any way that you could provide us with what's included in what you are supposed to provide for residents as opposed to what you provide that's extra? So we can look at your base and then what you do that's extra?
And so if I understand the question, do you mean like if we were to make let's say 7 traffic stops and it was part of the additional law enforcement services that we were providing, then you're interested in also seeing how many traffic stops we're making just as part of basic.
I'd just like to know what basically you provide and what you provide to other communities that is part of what you're supposed to provide. And then
Yeah.
I'd like to see a list of what is extra that you provide for Hideout.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if we're talking generalities of those kinds of things that without numbers attached to them, then yes, we can definitely break those things down.
So I have 2 points. The first is I would love to know what is the potential for having a marked car parked in various places around the town from time to time. Doesn't have to be man or woman, if you will, or staffed. Just kind of moved around to suggest that we have a large presence in the town of your staff. What would be involved in something like that for my first question?
I think it's a great idea. And so depending on how the rest of the group feels, as long as there's consensus on that, then yeah, definitely works for us. There's always the subject to the need kind of a thing. But yes, we typically have people in trainings or whatever, and so we're able to take a vehicle and put it in a certain spot for temporarily and just kind of move it around to some extent.
I would be all for that. I'd love to hear the other members of the council.
This is
Anybody
Brian.
have-
I like that idea. Can we get an inflatable police officer to sit in the driver's seat?
Yeah, I've seen that work in some small towns, haven't we? In
Works in
small
the
towns.
state, Illinois State Police do that all the time.
Yeah,
So yeah, does anybody in the council have any objections?
No.
It kind of sounds like the consensus is, yes, we'd like to have that.
Okay, good. I'll let the mayor know when that actually starts, so you're aware, and then also know that we have trailers that are available. So speed trailers, that I think you've seen them probably before on the side of the road. And some of them show your speed and then what the speed limit is. Those kinds of things, they flash if you're going above the speed limit. We have those, and we also have some message boards. So sometimes there's something going on traffic wise or event wise, and so we have message boards we can put up to direct people to, go certain ways or of certain information. And so if you want us to be using any of those things, then those are also open.
My second question is a little bit more longer term. As at some point, we're hoping to move our public works building up next to the fire department. But I would like to find a way that maybe we could create some kind of substation or space for a deputy to kind of hang out in from time to time when they're not out on patrol or doing other duties. Is that something that you kind of view as possible or desirable, perhaps?
It really is. I really appreciate you bringing it up. I think you and I have spoken about it previously. The mayor and I definitely have, and other council members. This is a big need that we do have, and whether it's partnering, and whether it's sooner or later, any of those kinds of things, we're feeling the need right now, and I'd like to make it one of our budget priorities, and help out with that kind of thing. So thank you.
I really like the idea because it'll reduce response time within the town. So anything that we can do to get that off the ground, even on a temporary or preliminary basis, I would love to do.
So I'm not sure, Mayor or anyone else, whether there's still a desk that might be used or available part-time at the town hall, but having something temporarily would be very helpful.
Well, I even said you could take my office if you needed services.
You did offer that. No, we don't want to take the mayor's office.
This is so critical that we have some presence, and I think it helps you because you want the 248 corridor better patrolled, and we would be a perfect satellite location right here in the middle, so to speak, at town hall, and you're right next to 248 and you're in the center of town. So it would all benefit us if we could get a real, not a fake person. We want a real person with a real car. And we would be more than happy to accommodate. Jan, I don't know, we were talking about this a little bit previously because we have a separate entrance
Right.
that was originally used. Can we use that possibility?
It's ready to go.
So, yeah, sure. Why don't we, it's like
Let's talk more.
it sounds like we're all in violent agreement that we want to do this. It's just a matter of how we can do it and serve you the best with the desk or whatever that might be.
Thank you. I would personally like to have some office hours over there every week, just to mix and mingle and get to know people. And so that could be posted. And I don't know that there would be much interest in it, but I'm interested in it. And so, yeah, whatever we could do.
Interested in it too. So, Jan, do you think we can work this through?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, sounds like we're getting a lot of positive feedback here. I think it's just a matter of how we, implement this. Give you a proper space for the patrolmen so that they have a desk, I guess.
Right.
What would be the next step then? Like some kind of memorandum of understanding, or what is the next step to make this happen?
Mayor, if you've got thoughts, I don't want to steal time.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I just don't want to take the mayor's time. Do you have something, Mayor, some thoughts on that point?
No, I just
Like
think
me
we
to
get
time-
together, we talk through it and we look at the facility and, if you've got, if there are some hours that you want to designate during the week, I think we could even come up with a rotating schedule because, not everybody's here all the time, for
Yeah.
instance. And I'm not here all the time. Jan's here probably more time than anyone. But, Maria's here and Carol's here occasionally and we have another office. Let's figure out what the right approach here is and, where there's a quiet space. Let's see how we can work this out. You can have the whole room downstairs if you want, you know?
Yeah, that's true too. Yes, Councilman, I'm open to MOU, interlocal, whatever, the consensus is. We're used to all of them.
Terrific.
Okay.
Let's make it.
So I think that's a great idea. Long term, should we look at what you guys have done with the Wasatch County Fire Department on the other side of the Jordanelle and have space in the new fire department? Is that something we could, I don't know, they're already working out plans for building that new building, but if they could provide some space there on a permanent basis, that might be a long-term solution.
We mentioned that, remember we talked about that, Sheriff. Does that, I mean, if there's enough space there, would that fit into your plans better? Because that is gonna be under construction. I just don't know how much space. We'd have to check with Eric.
Yeah, I don't know what Eric's got available and I certainly don't want to speak for him. We need to bring him into this conversation, I think, to see
That-
what.
Yeah.
What if anything-
That's my suggestion. I like the short-term idea, but long-term, the town hall may move, right? So, where the fire station won't, the permanent fire station. So, I would suggest we try to, I would think they'd be open to that if, assuming they have the budget for the space.
Long-term, as we move public works, I think we need to keep in mind a little bit of space, for a deputy.
Yeah. Yeah, either us or the fire department, either one.
It's great. That really is what I was hoping to speak with you about. Any questions, anything else, Mayor, that I'm forgetting?
No, not from my end. I know we talk regularly, so I would just say, I'm glad we talked about this piece because it sounds like, again, we're all in concert here, so to speak, on moving ahead with getting more of a presence and making that visible to the town and to anyone coming into the town. And
Awesome,
helping you in that regard as well.
great.
So, let's follow up separately and we'll figure out some of the next steps. Does that make sense?
It does to me. It's good to meet those of you that are new and see everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
You,
Sure. Okay. In a kind of follow-up here, we have, in terms of code enforcement and parking, which the Wasatch County Police is more focused on, non-parking issues, so to speak. So do we have Gareth on the line? And Jan, you coordinated this a bit. Do you want to say anything? This up?
I don't know if Gareth is on, but I can tell you about our conversation. So we originally discussed hiring him under a contract basis for parking enforcement. But then as we started talking about various issues like trash and dog, just other code issues we have, I brought up the potential with Gareth of, does he do other code enforcement? And yes, indeed, he has branched out and he does that kind of work. He's working with a couple of cities on different code enforcement. The nice thing is he's got the back end all figured out. So we don't have to hire staff and get up to speed, and he could utilize our existing staff to be on the ground, and then he does the back end charges the fee, collects the fee, and basically submits to the town a certain sum every month based on collections. So, I think we should, if he's not on now,
Could have tried to, get in earlier perhaps, and he wasn't able to or something.
right, he thought it was 5 o'clock initially, and just, we had some,
So should we invite him back? Or do you want to distribute any materials to the council in the next packet so that we can understand what the proposal is and how turnkey
that.
this might be? Because it sounds fairly turnkey.
Yeah.
Flip the switch and interstate parking and enforcement does the rest kind of deal is
right,
what I'm hearing.
yep, and Alta, the town of Alta has utilized Gareth, and they have great things to say. He started actually in Breckenridge. And has just grown, his company has been
Yeah.
very successful.
I'm familiar with the services they provide to Alta. It's more, it's related to the paid parking program they have there, which is a little different.
Mhm.
But it sounds like he's expanded to another
He has.
area.
Yeah.
So what he's done for Alta, just to clarify, is just their paid parking.
Correct, and he's doing work for Deer Valley.
Yeah, their interstate is doing work for all the Vale, they're doing all the paid parking pretty much for the
Correct.
Wasatch. Front, as it were, like,
Yeah.
but, it's great to hear that they've expanded to doing this type of work.
And they write the tickets as well, or do?
No, we would have our employee write tickets.
I wasn't
just
sure
back
about that
in.
piece, okay. Do we need to be deputized for any of that?
He's got all of that figured out, all of the legalities. So it seems super smooth. It seems like a win-win for us.
Wish it was online, yeah, so.
I know.
Do we put them on next time then?
Yeah.
Okay, cause I
And
don't think anybody's gonna read anything without seeing something in writing and what they do and maybe having some calls to maybe Alta, maybe we just ask, how's it going,
Well, Alta's, I can tell you, cause I also represent the town of Alta. I mean, I know that they've been happy with Interstate, but the service they're providing to Alta is not the same as what we're looking for here. Because we don't have a paid parking program. So, I mean, you can talk to Deer Valley, you can talk to, Town of Brighton also uses them, so they are doing a great job in terms of that paid parking program where people do reservations and all that. That's a different, item that different service that they're providing for those municipalities. So I think it might be important to find out who they're providing this kind of service to, so that if you wanna ask them questions, but, I think it would be great for you guys. I would suggest that you you have him talk, if they are used, have him talk to Cameron. If we're still representing the town, because Cameron has done a lot of work with the
Right.
enforcement stuff and issuing tickets already for the town, so
Yeah.
he can help us.
Thanks, Bob. Any other questions at this point? Okay, next one is, discussion, around the franchise agreement with Utopia. Holly's gonna lead this and, we're not gonna do any authorization tonight. I don't think we've got all the
I was
information.
confused because we did I sent it to Maria on Friday. She got, I think, a little caught up, but she did send it to you all on Monday.
Right.
But I'm sorry that we didn't, flag that for you, but in any case, we have Nicole Cottle here who, represents Utopia, who's very knowledgeable, so can answer any general questions, and then we can, obviously, it's up to the council if you want to vote tonight, or if you don't feel comfortable, obviously, you can defer it. I do know that they do have an issue with a broken line. I don't know that they would fix it in the next month, but I'll let her address that as well. And I'll let her kind of take the lead to explain it.
Sure.
And I sent out today just kind of a summary of the, yeah, we're pulling it up, awesome. Of the, kind of the franchise. It's a little different than the other franchises we've done. And I'll let Nicole take it from there.
Nicole, you wanna jump in and give us your pitch and also what, give us a few minutes for questions.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity. As you might be aware, Utopia is actually a group of municipalities, Utah municipalities that came together under an interlocal that provide fiber. We just provide the infrastructure, just the utility. So we don't provide any retail services. We only provide the line that the retail providers ride on. And we do have some fiber in your town already. Most of that fiber, well, all of that fiber actually was put in when areas of the city were private. So we do have some lines that are in private streets, if you will. Some of those have now been made public and are in ownership of the town. We, as you might imagine, it was quite of an expense for us to get our line to your town, and so as Polly mentioned, we do have a break in our line that is in a pretty expensive part. However, it has been broken for quite a little bit of time. We've been in this franchise process for a little bit of time, and part of that is on our shoulders because we had a prior attorney who was working through some things many years ago and wasn't able to get it across the finish line. And so hopefully we can here, and whether that's tonight or at a future meeting, that's totally fine. Because we're municipalities like you, we are amenable to whatever you might request of us or might need of us from a city perspective. We have utilized this standard form franchise agreement across the state because most cities are most comfortable with that form, even though, as you saw from my brief summary page, some of the provisions in that franchise agreement, in fact, don't apply to Utopia because we are just the infrastructure provider and not the retail provider of services. So it is a little bit of an interesting dynamic that way. I can answer any questions you might have with regards to that. I know that Polly mentioned that one of your most grave concerns is how we actually put lines into the ground and the construction processes that we follow. First, I would say that we will explicitly follow whatever direction or requirement that you have. And so we get permits as normal, and we follow all of your rules, but we also have a gold standard for ourselves. We do not do any micro trenching. When we do go into the ground, we don't do open trench either. We don't dig into the ground and open up a trench in your road or through your road or through the right of way. We bore, and we go at least 24 inches down, if not 36. So we're anywhere between 24 or 36, depending on the ground and how that engineering works. But we do that with, of course, the fiber and then the conduit, in addition to all of the requirements that you might have. We do have fiber all across the state and in most of the cities in Utah. And we do, as I mentioned, have some fiber in your city. We typically would not come in and just lay fiber for fun, if you will. We do that as we get orders. In this case, we do, and you'll see, I mentioned that we do have the fiber that it was damaged in a construction project, not by us, but by a construction company in your Deepwater HOA. And so as we went to fix that, those roads had transferred from private ownership over to the ownership of the city and of the town, and the town requested that we get this franchise agreement put together. So that's what we're striving to do. As Polly mentioned, if you have a standard form that you'd like us to use, we're amenable to that as well. My understanding was that you didn't have a standard form franchise agreement, but we're amenable to that. And we really, as you know, you control your right of way. We're very respectful of that because all of our cities like to control their right of way as well. And so we're you, and if you have a form that you'd rather that we use, we're great to review that and proceed that way as well. Again, happy to answer any questions. And with that, I'll just turn it back to you, and I'm at your service for questions. And thanks again for letting me come tonight.
And I can just clarify two things. She's referring, it's in Deer Butters is where the fiber is currently. And also I found through the files that were given to me from Dan Dancy, the prior town attorney back in 2020, that they were working on a Utopia franchise and that somehow didn't get finalized.
I remember that because I was on the planning commission way back when we were talking about Utopia. So it's interesting. I feel like this is a reincarnation, but I'm not sure why things went south at that point.
I'm not quite sure. I think maybe someone just left or whatever, who knows? But, and also with Dan leaving, maybe it just didn't, it fell off. But, they've come back, and the other things to just consider, as part of this agreement is that we're actually quite lucky. They're offering a 5% franchise fee. And actually, because, and Nicole can speak to this way better than I can, but my understanding is they are not a cable company which gets regulated by state code. They're a telecommunications company and the infrastructure company, which means that they're only regulated by the federal code. So the fact is that they're giving us this 5% that I don't know that we could demand. It's kind of, it's a bonus for the town. Nicole, I don't know if you want to speak to that. Maybe I'm giving you guys too much credit, but.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. I just want to be clear on one point. There are some sections of the state law that do apply to us. The particular sections that Polly is mentioning are exactly as she said, relating to us being a telecommunications provider rather than a cable provider. And that's that difference between wholesale and retail provider of service. So really, again, we are just the infrastructure. We're like the runways at the airport. We're like the roads in the town. We provide the infrastructure, and then the retail provider provides the rest. And they're actually the responsible parties, as you're aware, the Comcast, the Xfinities, the Xmissions, the Sumos, to provide those cable provisions and the franchise amounts that go along with that. So we do keep those in our agreement because, like I said, most cities like that standard form and they like to have that provision in there. And we agree with that and facilitate that as well. And that's why it's in this one.
So, I can't seem to find that email that you referred to, Polly, so if you could send it again, that would be great. I have some major concerns. I like competition. I want competition. I think it's good for the residents. It tends to increase quality, decrease costs, and increase choice. And so for those reasons, I'd like to see your company come here. However, and this is a big however, I cannot support a contract that would allow you to install poles, string wires above ground, string cables, string fiber, whatever it is. We have two other companies in town right now. Both of them are serving the entire town with no above ground wires, cables, poles, utilities. And so I have a big problem with this contract because on one hand, it says you'll follow the town code, which does not permit above ground utilities. On the other hand, it says that we would be granting you the right to string up wires on existing poles and that kind of thing. Our views here are one of our best and most valuable attributes. I can't get behind anything that would harm the views, harm the property values of the residents. So are you at all willing to do all of this underground? I live in Deer Waters. I know you've slant drilled my subdivision. And that's all great, but as for stringing up additional wires, poles, cables, any above ground structures, I gotta tell you, I don't think you're gonna find much support in this council.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And absolutely, we'll absolutely take that out. Again, standard form for we use that in cities that have a power company. Sometimes they like us to be on their power poles instead of underground. We prefer to be underground, and I'm happy to take that out and go exclusively underground. Absolutely. No problem at all.
All right, because one thing I would like to ask our council, should we, in order to try to make these agreements similar, or would it be a good idea for us to take the Comcast agreement and change the name and make the terms similar, rather than re-engineering a third agreement and making, now having three separate agreements?
And we're happy to do that. We've signed agreements that are identical to Comcast agreements in many cities. Happy to do that.
A modified Comcast agreement that it expressly states that there'll be nothing above ground, that no poles, no wires, no thumbtacks, no nothing.
Yep, no problem.
So Nicole, are you suggesting that we revise, that we re-execute our existing franchise agreements with Comcast and other providers to include Utopia?
No, my question
Oh,
was,
no.
should we take the Comcast agreement
Right.
and change the name, obviously, but use that as a template for a
Yep.
new, for this third agreement, rather than re-engineering a third agreement? I like the idea that the agreements would be similar as opposed to three separate agreements, and so it was a
Gotcha.
question, not a statement.
Okay, I'm
No,
sorry.
that's no problem. That's very normal. Again, I posed this one in an effort to kind of get things going. We have signed identical Comcast agreements. I love the idea. Happy to just have the name changed and plug us right in. I think it's very normal for a community to say we want all of our franchise agreements to be the same. And I'm happy to comply, and we do that in other cities. I put this one forward as a hey, can we get this conversation going again? And this is the one we've signed most recently with communities down south, but happy to sign that. And we do that routinely as well. It's not a problem for us at all. No
I
issue.
think we can probably get you a copy of our existing Comcast agreement, which I
Great.
think went through quite a bit of revision and wrangling and negotiating. So, but it does,
Great.
I will tell you upfront, it expressly says that under no circumstances, well, the only circumstance in which you can string things above ground is where you can demonstrate there's no commercially available alternative. So
Sure.
no,
Yeah,
it's gotta be underground.
absolutely no problem. No issue with us at all.
All right, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. And great
Yeah.
question. Yeah, and I apologize for any upset I might have caused. That absolutely, we prefer to be underground as well. So no problem.
Terrific. I think the residents will too.
Yeah.
No, I second that, Jonathan. I had a little discussion about this, and my concern was also uh, consistency of agreements for, fairness and trade kind of stuff. So I think reusing the Comcast agreement is a great idea.
On the franchise fee, how do you determine that? Like, how do I know the 5% is competitive to what you give other jurisdictions?
Well, so again, technically Utopia is not subject to a franchise fee because of the type of community or the type of
Understood. Yep.
group
Understood.
that we are. Whatever your Comcast agreement says is what we will do. So that's consistent. Again, we don't pay that fee in any of our jurisdictions that we do business in. The end user provider pays that. So it does. This is a pretty standard one. I will be honest with you, the other one that's floating out there that I'm aware of that's different than this is Google. So Google Fiber has an agreement that they have posited in some cities that has they don't call it a franchise fee. They call it I'm not going to get the term exactly right, but I think they call it a road use fee. And that is specifically negotiated city by city with Google. And so I will sometimes have cities say to us, we have this kind of a particular deal with Google. And so there is some variance there, and that's very kind of city specific, but the 5% is pretty standard. And I'm sure whatever you have in your Comcast agreement, although I haven't seen it, I didn't know there was one. I apologize. It's probably that would be my guess because that's the maximum allowed under federal law. And so I'm sure that's where it's gone to. So the 5% is very standard across the state because that's the maximum that the federal law allows.
And then do you see it where it steps up if the maximum under federal law has been increased? Because it's a 10-year term, right?
I have
follows
seen,
that.
yep, I have seen provisions in agreements that say or to the maximum of the federal allowance. I have seen
Yeah,
that.
I'm sure.
I'm guessing that yours with Comcast probably doesn't say that just because I don't know that they would voluntarily agree to that change, but we can take a look at it.
Yeah, I'd be curious. And forgive me because I haven't seen the agreement, so I haven't been able to read it. But
No
what
problem.
happens at the end of the 10 years? Like, what do you do with the materials that are 2 feet underground? Do you guys
We
remove it? Does it go to the cable provider? Like, what happens with,
yeah.
we don't want to be stuck with junk, right?
Yeah,
Left
no, great
underground. So
question.
what
So,
happens with
so
that?
yep, great question. So a couple things. Fiber is really future proof. So there's really nothing faster than the speed of light. So this utility is kind of like the utilities that you're used to, like when you put a water line in the ground or a sewer line in the ground. The life of a fiber line, we have fiber lines now that are almost 30 years old. There's fiber out there that's almost 50 years old. So, and it continues to work as well as it does day one. So we hope after 10 years that you'll re-up a franchise agreement with us. If you don't, we then under this agreement are required to remove that to your satisfaction. We hope we don't get to that point as well. And it's not likely that you would ask us to do that because it will still be providing a good service to your community. But so fiber infrastructure is very expensive. That's why the length of the term is longer than you might normally see. But think of it as infrastructure. So it's like your water line or your sewer line. So we do have franchise agreements that have come up. The 10 years has run. And we just come back and have these kind of conversations and say, hey, we'd like to renew our franchise agreement, as do all of the other cable providers, your Comcast and your Xfinities of the world. Same situation. They come back and ask the community, the right-of-way owner, to renew the right-of-way franchise agreements at that time. That's kind of just a function of being in this business. It's how it works. It's a great question. And I can assure you that fiber, because it is future proof, we got a lot of years before there's any trouble or before there's something better, really. Once we figure out what's faster than the speed of light, well, and there might be, you never know. But this agreement would require removal if that's what the jurisdiction required at that time. Great question.
Any other quick questions? So we'll probably need to move on, but is the next step looking at our own contract with Comcast and then adding the conditions that we just were talking about and passing it back to them rather than them passing it to us? So it's our form, as she mentioned.
Yeah, we
initially.
can definitely use the Comcast form, and we did compare the Comcast form to the Utopia one, and our associate looked at that and she said that it was substantially the same. But why not, as you said, they're willing to, we know that one was well vetted, so if they're willing to use the same form, then we can just do that, and I can send that to you, Nicole, tomorrow, and then we can have something back to you, to the council, maybe 2 weeks before the next meeting, and I will flag it for you. I think maybe what happened was Maria sent you something on Monday evening, but it was just the way that they were attached was at the bottom of the email. Or I don't know, it was blind copied, so I can't see your names on it, so I don't know. Maybe somehow there was an issue with that.
We'll fix that going forward.
Yeah.
But we want to make the changes that Jonathan mentioned, which is absolutely nothing above ground, unless there's an act of God or something. And Tanya brought up that It's at least whatever the federal, um, franchise fee, I think, is, not just 5% for 5%, or if it moves up, we get the benefit of that.
Right.
Okay.
Great. Great with Utopia, and we appreciate the opportunity and are absolutely amenable to all of that and just appreciate your time and attention to this. Really appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for your willingness to work with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to it. Thanks so much.
Thanks. So moving on, and I just want to make mention, Bob Nadelberg has said he's gonna log off. And I don't see him on now, and then he's gonna be on, he's gonna pick up his phone while he drives to the airport. So keep an eye out for him. He's there. If you would, Maria.
Polly, can I request that you circulate a draft of that agreement to the town council before it goes to Nicole? In particular, I haven't seen the original one, so I would like to see a copy of it.
Yeah, so you want the Utopia one that they sent to us as
No.
well as just the Comcast one?
Just the Comcast, yeah. I think
Okay, so
we should
that's
have an opportunity to give it a quick review before it goes out.
Sure.
Thank you.
So with that, let's move on to the LTAP, which is Randy, are you on at this point? Because
Yes, can you hear me?
we can. I know we've moved you around a number of times, so I was looking at your report, great report, love it. So can you take it over, so to speak, and present whatever you want? I don't know if you have a PowerPoint or whatever.
I'm gonna share my screen and go through the report and go through the GIS database a little bit. I just requested access, so hopefully Maria can give me access. Okay, looks like I can share my screen. Is that starting to show up?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, this is the GIS database. So let me just introduce you to who we are and what we do. So we're the Utah LTAP's out of Utah State University. We've been there since 1988. Every state has an LTAP, and it stands for Local Technical Assistance Program. So not only do we get out and help people with like their pavement management and data gathering, and we have students do that work. We help people with traffic issues. We have a safety engineer, and we're really trying to help local governments with safety. We do classes for local government employees. They don't have their own programs like UDOT does. So we try and give them continuing education so they can be better at their jobs. So that's just a quick overview of that. This report, Hanson Allen Luce contacted us and asked us to do this pavement report and coordinate with the town of Hideout. And so I'll just walk you through it a little bit and what the key concepts are and the key goals. What we try and do is,
Excuse me just a sec, Maria, could you let me in so that I can look at that on my laptop? I can't see the screen from here. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
oh, no, you're fine. So, what we do is we look at the roads and we try and classify them. There's a ranking system, and we classify them that they have a life of 20 years. We look at a 20-year life, and that's with no maintenance. And so if you look at this GIS map, this is actually showing the different classifications, and this is what the students went out and did. So they actually go to every road in town. So if I click on this road, which is Claim, and they get a photo of that in GIS. Why is that not coming up? There it is. So you can see the photo of that road. We can zoom in a little bit there. That got a poor life, saying it's probably less than a couple of years of remaining service life. Now, as we talked about this road with Public Works and
They're showing
engineering,
us pause screen. Can you show that as well?
is it not working?
There, that's working.
Huh, it wouldn't show the pop-up, I guess. Does it show it? to the side? No? Guess not. So, but you're probably familiar with this section of claim in here and that it's pretty beat up. When we looked at that, it would cost to reconstruct that road would be more than your annual budget. So we said, let's make sure that projects up there, construction vehicles, other things are not accessing it anymore before you reconstruct that. There was discussion of all that, but we go through all these. We um, we go through and we do ratings on them. We do a structural rating. We see if the cause of the damage, the cracking, the fatigue cracking, the alligator cracking, we see if it's related to a structural issue with trucks or heavy vehicles. We also look at environmental issues and we combine those into that remaining service life. And what we want to do, I'm going to scroll down in the report. Historically, government has responded to maintenance in a political fashion. So if you look at this chart right here, this is the typical deterioration curve of a road, and it'll deteriorate over 20 years. And what happens is the further it gets down its life cycle, the faster deterioration occurs. And you really want to do routine or preventative maintenance, which is cheaper, which is in the first 10 years versus getting into the rehab or reconstruction, which is much more expensive. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to extend that service life out by doing crack seals and chip seals and slurry seals and things that'll keep that road from getting moisture in it and keep it from getting broken up. Does that make sense so far where we're at? Okay, so as we go through this report, it's easy to look and say that this Bellevue is a very good brand new road. And then as you go down through the report, Longview, it's got a few more structural cracks in there, so it rated a little bit lower. Then you get down into the fair, and this was Lariat. And then you got down into the Poor, which was Stargazer, and you can see it has some needs for some patching and some other issues. And then you got all the way down, and this was Claim, I think, or it goes down the back way to 248. So we look at those and we classify them. Sorry, I'm jumping around a lot here, but we look at if this goes every 2 years here, and I can zoom in a little. These roads in red are your bad roads. These roads in green are your good roads, and the yellow and orange are the in-between years. And every year that you don't maintain that road, it moves a year to the left. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to keep your good roads over here, and you want to address these roads before you want to keep yellow over here, and you want to keep it from getting to orange and then getting to red. It's what we're really trying to do. If you do that if you do it that way, it's a much better use of your money. Historically, maybe you always fix the bad roads first, but that's a more expensive way to address it. So we go down through that, and then we look at what your budget is. So I'm going to jump down.
By the way, the road, Randy, on the structural E, very poor, is that road at Claim, isn't that their secondary egress road, or am I incorrect?
Yeah, I think it looks like it's not a full width road, and so there may be some other reasons to.
Do you pay much attention to that? Because, we're probably not gonna suggest that, if I own the road, that wouldn't be where I would put my money. Since it's only used for egress. I don't know if you classify them, if in your data system, if you do some classification of that. So we'd love to see your raw, maybe some of the raw data behind this as well.
And typically in bigger cities, they're classified as like arterials, collectors, locals. In Hideout, it was pretty much all the same, but I agree with you there. That looks like a secondary access. And what we told them was it would cost more to fix this. Your budget's about 120,000 a year that you get if you use all that money. So this comes from B and C funds, which are gas tax, and it comes from the Rural Transportation Infrastructure Fund, which is a new fund that the legislature created. Rural counties don't get enough money. In fact, nobody really gets enough money off the gas tax. But rural counties were hit harder because it was based off population. And so you're probably getting about twice what you got before this Rural Transportation Infrastructure Fund came to be through the legislature. And what we projected in this report was with the budget you currently have in 20 years. So the blue is current, the blocks that I've already showed you. The green's 10 years and the yellow's 20 years. And with the budget you have, you're going to have some roads that are going to be out there and need, reconstruction, but you're going to be able to keep a lot of them over on the right side and in the good category. We looked at another scenario where some communities are going to where they're doing a user fee for transportation or other things. And this was if you added about 100,000 to the budget, you can see that you would reduce these on the left in the yellow and put them over in the good category. So it gave you some sensitivity analysis. What we typically recommend is that you update this every 5 years and see how you're doing so that you track it over time and really try and think about it and see what things are working best for your community. So we go through that. There's a couple other things we recommend in there. One of the things is to make sure to spend some money on inspection of new roads. Don't accept a road that's going to be substandard. So where we say it has a 20-year design life or service life, if it has poor construction, you could reduce that in half. If you don't get compaction, if you don't get the right oil. So inspection's really important because these are expensive resources to construct and then to maintain. And then we recommend just keeping up on this. We worked with Public Works and engineering to go in, and there's a dashboard, and we helped them look at where you could click on a road and add it into the budget to see what would happen that way. So that's kind of my overall thing. I see Dennis Pay's raised his hand.
Yeah, I was just kind of going back to the mayor's question about, would we spend money on what does it claim? And yeah, I think what we've got here is a great tool that LTAP's put together, and we would, use that working with Public Works as we, move into the budgeting, which is going to start soon. Look at the condition of roads, look at our budget, and see, where we can get the best bang for our buck. But, with a lot of this information that Randy's presented, like I said, we have a great tool to help us make better decisions and extend the life of all of our roads. And so I just very appreciative to what LTAP has done. I've known Randy for the better part of 20 years. He's always great to work with, and he's saved my bacon many, many times. So I have a lot of trust in his recommendations and what he's put together here.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate that. So if there's questions, that's kind of the quick presentation. We could talk about it for a lot longer, but I think with the time you have and everything else, that gives you a good kind of overview of what we did.
Hey, Randy, I have one question, and that is, economics here. And it looks like the 119,766 that you had on figure 7, you're suggesting to bring it up to a more medium, that we add about 100,000 in there. 95,000 I thought was the kind of the next threshold to get to where we can extend those curves in the previous charts that you had. So am I reading that correct? Is that what you're saying?
And I think the additional money, which is about 50% additional money, why we showed that is just to give you a sensitivity analysis. You're really doing a lot better than a lot of the communities we look at because a lot of your roads are fairly new. when we get into some of the older communities that they've been built forever, they really need about 100% more money, depending on where we're at. So I I don't know that you're at the point that you need to, if you do smart maintenance, and the thing to keep in mind is right now you have 1% of your roads that are really bad down here. Maybe about three, if you consider this. You'll at year 10, you'll get up to about 14%, and then year 20 you'll be about 10%. So that 10% would come down to about 6% if you had more money. So it takes a lot of money to chip away at these bad roads. And that's why you want to keep them over in the good category. But I don't think there's a magic number there or things that you need to do. Now, I think what I would recommend is watch what the legislature does this year, because there's been quite a bit of discussion about codifying this user fee. There's probably about a dozen cities that already bill as part of their utilities a user fee for transportation. There was a lawsuit in Pleasant Grove, and it was found to be not a tax, but a legal fee as it went to the state Supreme Court. But the legislature is looking at some things there, and what they do could affect your ability to do something in the future. So hopefully there's some um, good solutions proposed there so that this could be more uniform throughout the state.
And how do we stay on top of that?
Um, League of Cities and Towns is someone that I talk to. They're coordinating this and trying to really help the communities come up with a reasonable approach. It probably doesn't affect Hideout like it does some others, but there last year when it went through the legislature, there was one side that was advocating to codify the user fee, and a second side was looking to exempt houses of worship, which becomes a little bit controversial, but it probably really doesn't affect Hideout either way. So
Any other-
that's,
I had a question. Was Golden Eagle part of that evaluation as well?
you're gonna have to help me on the map. When
They're
you
gonna
say
be
Golden,
on let's see. They're across from 2A.
up here,
Some of the
there,
roads.
Golden Eagle Road,
Yeah,
it was not.
okay.
Um, I think we looked at it originally and then pulled it out because it was not part of what you send to UDOT to get your gas tax funds.
Not taking responsibility for the road, so that's an interesting conversation. Maybe it was excluded from the state. Well, one, there weren't that many roads up there.
Well, we've never accepted their roads, so that's why it looks like they've only looked at what we have already for our B and C road funds,
So,
or really C road funds.
so we're kind
Yeah,
of covered. But that's good.
I've heard rumor that we were going to, so that's why I asked.
And
we're,
No, we're not.
Except Golden Eagles roads.
No, we're not.
Okay, then.
and
That's
if
great
you
news for us.
if you add anything, you'll want to put your road miles in with UDOT every year and update those, because that's what half of your gas tax money comes from the center line miles of road.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is Dennis again. I just wanted to emphasize that we don't have maintenance responsibility on the roads in Golden Eagle. That would be under Hideout Local District 1.
Right.
So part of the reason that we wouldn't include that in this study.
Anything else?
no, Randy, I think first of all, I love the report. It was, excellent kind of projection. So I think you're right. We're probably not immediately impacted maybe as compared to other towns or cities. And, but I think we need to be future looking. We don't want to leave. I wouldn't want to, in 4 years say, we just left the mess for the next administration or whatever. So we need to balance our long-term thinking with our short-term investments. In any case, thanks, Randy, and I don't know how else to say, great report. It was informative to me.
Thank you. We appreciate working with you guys, and I hope it helps.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so next is, I think, Polly, you're gonna take us through how to be ethically minded here.
You pulling that up or do you want me to?
Can you pull it up?
Yeah.
And I'm not connected.
Oh, no worries, fine. Yeah,
I just have.
yeah.
Or do you need hop on? Oh, there you go. Okay. So I just wanted to, so as you may all know, you have to file conflict of interest disclosures but before the end of this month under Utah state law. It's going to be, the disclosure is going to look a lot like what you've had to submit if you've recently run for election. So it's the same as the candidacy. I just thought this was a good opportunity to give you kind of high level ethics question, just overview of what the state law is. And, see if you have any questions. So, next slide, sorry. So obviously, the purpose is to make sure to promote public trust and integrity, ensure decisions are made in the public interest, and also prevent the misuse of public office.
Polly, I'm not seeing your slides on Zoom.
I'm not either.
All right. That's fine.
Brian, are you okay if she just does the presentation and then emails the slides to us after the call?
Yeah, I've got them in the packet too. That's fine if she can't do it.
Okay,
It's pretty basic.
yeah, just keep going, Polly.
Okay, I'll keep going while Maria's trying to get
Thanks,
this,
Brent.
sharing the screen. So, this applies, of course, to all municipal officers, all municipal employees, and boards, commissions, and agencies. And the key principle, kind of most importantly, is that, it's all pretty obvious, right? But it never hurts to review these. It's, you're not allowed to use the office for personal benefit. You must avoid and report any conflicts of interest, and you must act with honesty and impartiality. And Utah in general is actually a pretty low bar in terms of recusal. It's very rare that if you had a direct interest, we'll go into this a little bit more, but just, reporting any conflict of interest is kind of the key thing to take away from this, as well as, of course, these other principles, but. So, any luck? No? Okay, So conflicts of interest, what is a conflict of interest? You know, financial interest in a business entity regulated by or doing business with the municipality. Family or business relationships that could or do create a conflict between, someone, an employee or an elected official's personal interest and public duties. So, you do have to, disclose, any compensation for assistance in transactions involving the municipality. And that must be a sworn statement that's disclosed in an open meeting. I don't think that's ever come up, but for example, if Nate Brockbank lived here and was on the council, right, he would have to disclose, oh, this project is mine, right? I have an interest in this. He would have to recuse himself because he would have a direct influence. And if there's a business entity doing business with the municipality, that must be disclosed as well. So. What's that?
Don't know where I am. Sorry.
Okay, so sworn statements, annually, you have to file a sworn statement. And Maria can accept you can do it in front of her. And she needs to take it, and then it's going to get posted on our website. If there is a case where someone's agreed to receive compensation for assisting with the transaction, which I would not, recommend, it seems like, but it can be disclosed. I think that wouldn't smell great. And you have an ongoing duty to report, and that is important because while you're filling this disclosure form out in January, if something happens, if you move even, you need to update your disclosure statement so that it's clear where you live. Or if you change your business or have some other interests, you need to be able to disclose that, and you have an ongoing duty to do that. Obviously, you're not allowed to use the office for personal benefit. And that includes receiving a loan with interest substantially less. You can't use private, controlled, or protected information acquired through your official position for personal interests, or providing special privileges for anybody. Obviously, you can't ask for gifts. The exception is a gift having less than $50, or a publicly presented award. You know, a loan if it's in the ordinary course of business, or political contributions. And you know, it's pretty serious penalties, felony or misdemeanor charge, can rescind or void a contract, and it could possibly result in dismissal from office or removal from employment. So, I'm on slide 10 here, yeah, the annual conflict of interest disclosure, again, those who are newly elected officials should be familiar with this document because you had to fill it out in order to run for office. That was one of the disclosures you had to do. And so we have the form, we can show it again afterwards. Maria will email it to you, or if you want a hard copy, we can provide that to you, and that needs to be filled out. And I believe that's notarized. And that's it doesn't? It does, yeah. Yeah, it does, yeah. Okay.
Does that include the three of us that we just went through?
Yeah,
So we have to file a new form as well?
I would just file a new form. I mean, it can look almost the same. You can but you have to re-sign it and resubmit it. Once it is filed with, Maria, our recorder, she will post it on the website and provide a link to the posting to the Lieutenant Governor's office. And if you don't comply, it's a Class B misdemeanor, civil fine, and gets reported to the Attorney General's office. So I don't know that unless you have questions, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it includes your name, spouse's name, other adults residing in the household who's not related by blood, employers of yourself and your spouse, and any entity you are an owner or officer, and if you have received $5,000 or more in the preceding year, or stocks and bonds having a fair market value of $5,000 or more. And I have to remember about this. I think that publicly traded stocks you don't have to like list your stock portfolio. That obviously would be problematic. So if you have any questions about that, we can talk about that.
I do have a quick question. Does this mean that every trade of a publicly traded security with a value of $5,000 or more has to be reported?
No, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying, is
All right.
that I don't think it includes the publicly traded.
Okay, so those are exempt from the report.
Right,
Okay.
and of course, like, yeah, if you have a mutual fund, all that, that's not,
As long as they're publicly traded.
I'm pretty
And
sure.
you don't have a certain interest or more in the company, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Don't you have to disclose whether you have a substantial interest in a business entity or
Yeah.
if you're if you're an investor in a publicly traded company, you have to disclose if you're over a certain percentage of stock ownership of that company. So obviously I've
Correct.
got Amazon shares, but in the grand scheme of things, it's
Less than 5%.
less than 1%.
So does this also apply to existing members on the council like myself and Carol and Bob?
Yes,
Okay.
it applies to every elected official.
Got it. Thank you.
And it doesn't apply to non-elected officials. It doesn't apply, that this conflict form does not have to be filled out by the planning commission because they are not elected.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And that's very high level. That's it. And then we also have a link to the Municipal Officers Ethics Act. That is part of the state code. It's chapter 3, 13. So that's something that you should also review on occasion. And if you have any ethics questions, falls under that.
So, just to be clear, we're gonna receive these by email to sign?
Yeah.
Is that correct, Marie?
Yes.
I mean, do you have any hard copies available now?
No, I can go and print them, however, if you'd like, take just a minute, but I'll.
Because we have to bring it in to get notarized, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I would give you my hard copy, but I just wrote on it. So sorry. Yeah, so it's your responsibility to make sure you come in before the end of the year to give it to Maria so she can post. So yeah, that's just kind of high level. And if there are any other specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I can also disseminate kind of that information to the rest of
You
the
said end of the year. You did at the end of the month, right?
end of the month.
Yes,
Sorry,
okay.
January 31st.
Holly, you're still on here, so ethics, we're talking, so maybe we can knock off a couple of these two and we can take a 2-minute break or something like that, because we've got a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, do you want to take a break first? I'm gonna get online so I can see.
Yeah, why don't we take a 2-minute or 3-minute break here? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, right, I'm good for it.
Stretch my legs here a bit. protein bowl or whatever. So the next three, Polly, are really, what we had talked about and related to the planning commission, the next three items. So, how do you want to go through this?
Well, why don't we just go in order? I think that they were in order and I'm gonna rely on Maria to pull them up. I can pull them up on my computer as well, but okay, there we go. So the first one is the discussion on the planning commission rules and regulations. And let me just preface this, the way that your code reads, let me pull this up, but it's a little confusing because it's just this discussion. Basically, they're presenting it to you. There's no, the way that our code reads, it doesn't require you to accept them or, it's just that you just accept them. You don't have to approve them. So Maria, can you pull up the actual?
And you should be able to.
Oh, okay. I'm just not great at sharing.
No.
I have to be honest.
Can you see that?
Yeah. So the planning, this has come back to, you guys have seen it. You've seen it in your packets, I think since maybe September. I can't even remember how far. I just know we had a very, very busy fall with a lot of applications that ended up kind of hijacking our meetings, as it were. And so there was a lot of stuff that we didn't get to. This was discussed by the planning commission. And these were the rules. And if you recall, I had a staff report that you got from prior months. And based on the council's input, that is why I drafted certain of the changes that the planning commission suggested. So so I don't know if you want me to go through this or if you want me to, if you have specific questions, but, as I said, it just gets presented to the council. So you can see, yes, this was adopted in September and I guess I need to update the date, because this is when I think it was first presented to you. How do you want me to do it? You want me to go through it? Do you wanna just talk about key things? I can go over some of the big things about it.
Let's start with that.
Okay,
That's
so, and, sorry. I shouldn't have I should have been on the computer before. So, one of the big things I'll kind of go, is that they asked to appoint their own chair and vice chair. Before the code was silent on that, the Hideout code was. And so, that was kind of a big, issue for them. So that was one thing that they asked of the council, and the input I got from the council was that you wanted to consider that. And so subsequent to these rules, you will see an ordinance that allows that the planning commission will appoint their chair and vice chair, and it will be a 1-year term. Some of this just comes directly from the code. They have staggered 4-year terms. The mayor, with advice and consent of the town council, shall appoints them. So the mayor picks the person, but then if the council has to approve whoever for whatever seat. One thing that has been confusing to people in the past is just, I kind of look at it as seats A through E, as it were, 5 seats. And each one has a particular term, so if someone leaves, person who replaces them gets the rest of their term. The term doesn't start over. So that's how it reads in here and in our code.
I think the confusion was with the alternates.
Yes, the alternates in our code was silent.
Alicia had, both alternates coming up in 2026. And as we were discussing, we're not really sure that's the case, or what the intention was. And so we need to clean that up, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and one other idea, and I sent this all to you yesterday, I think it was. So I know it's last minute, you don't have to consider it, but the mayor asked me to. We were talking about it and talked about the concept that maybe the alternates should just become full-time members, and then you have a planning commission of 7 members. And, I think actually, did that chart get sent out?
Actually, that is one of the, that's the.
That's it,
but
yeah.
You know, that's where we're mixing.
Yeah, we're
Putting
mixing,
things together, but how can you not consider that if that's what, you know, we wanna get to, if we
Yeah.
wanna get to it,
right.
so to speak. But, so, do you want to explain that a little bit more, and the fact that
Sure.
Park Cities get, you know?
Yeah, so, and, yeah, I know I sent it to Maria kind of late, but I think it got into the. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, I'll let you scramble while I just explain it, but for all this planning commission discussion. We did a table of, about 15 entities, and how they treat kind of the size of their planning commissions. Whether they had alternates, their terms, if they elected their own chair, et cetera, et cetera. And, in those, so of the 15, and of course, as you know, I used to work for Park City Municipal, so I was very familiar with theirs. I'm also very familiar with Brighton and Alta and Immigration, since I represent those towns as well. But Park City, the other ones all have 5-member planning commissions, but Park City has always had a 7-member commission. And I remember when this issue came up, because it feels like the alternates roles are actually quite confusing to everyone, because if they're an alternate, they're still expected to show up. But then the question is, well, do they participate even? And then, but they get to participate, but they don't get to vote. It just puts them, why not just have them be full-fledged members? And I asked, Kathleen and Alicia when this came up in the fall, before we had Maria, and they were looking through, and they said that it had never been a problem to get at least 4 planning commissioners to attend, if you include the alternates. So if that's the case, then you would likely always have, the idea is just to make sure that you have a quorum. The difference is if you have a 5-member planning commission, you only need a quorum of 3. If you have a 7-member, you need a quorum of 4. But that being said, you could, you can have, if you're always having 4 people anyway, then that's not a challenge for the town. And I think that also as the town, that this may be, I mean, it's totally a legislative decision. Legally, you can do it anyway. I think as the town is getting more people and is now officially a city, that, you have more of a pool to choose from, where you have more people available. I think initially it was really hard to get people to even beyond the planning commission, so having alternates was a way to try to assure that you had place for them. So, that's a little segue into one of the other, discussions. Of course, when these rules and procedures were being considered, we weren't talking about this, so. Well, first they have a big section about what the officers do, the chair, the vice chair. Also a big switch as the town has matured. is that now we have a clerk or deputy clerk attending the planning commission meetings, taking minutes, recording it. Being secretary, I think earlier, Mayor, you had
I was
mentioned,
described,
yeah,
in the
so,
early days.
so that's, we're now officially making it that it's the
Not
recorder.
as good as Maria or Alicia, trust me.
Some other big things, that they did was talking about, scheduling and, you know, like you guys, requiring that materials are delivered by noon, business days prior to the meeting, or they have a right not to cancel that item. They also decided to include a public comment period at the beginning of their meetings in case someone from the public wanted to discuss something about planning that wasn't on the agenda. It just creates more transparency, it creates more dialogue with the public. So they talked about that and decided to put that in there. We talked about public comment and the importance for civility when that happens, and the importance of people just addressing the commission and not, you know, yelling at the applicants or getting into a dialogue when they're making their public comments. And then special meetings can be called by the chair or at the request of 3 or more members. And then we talked about voting, and then they went into a big paragraph about the alternates, and this is on page 3. I'm just looking at my version now, so that on you know, so what they said was, okay, the alternate can sit in for a regular member if a regular member's not there. But they can't vote. And then there was also a question of which alternate would sit in and how do you decide that? So maybe that whole discussion is moot now if you do decide to make them full members. But if not, they decided to alternate the responsibility of the members so that it wasn't just one alternate that always got to do it, they would alternate. And then also we talked about you know, requiring abstention if there's a conflict of interest, and that they have to adhere to the Ethics Act. And we talked about the yearly training is in there. Now I'm on the last page, page 4. And also the courtesy of notifying the recorder if they're not going to be present so that we know if we have a quorum. Oh, thank you. And here's the chart is up. And then the last thing, which I think is important, is especially for planning commission, where it's more administrative. You know, you guys are the legislative body, you're making law, you have a lot more latitude in terms of making laws, in terms of hearing from other people, or people that are even before you, but that's not the case in the planning commission. It is required to be more administrative review. And so they wanted to put in this paragraph that talks about ex parte contact. If they are talked to outside of the planning commission, they should try not to engage in those communications. And the idea is that everything that happens in front of the planning commission happens in the meeting itself. And if an ex parte communication does happen, then the planning commissioner must disclose that to the rest of the commission and let the rest of the commission know what was discussed so that everybody has the same benefit of the information that was.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Does that apply to just persons who are interested in have a financial interest, or let's say, you know, their neighbor heard about the project and a member of the planning commission has a conversation with their neighbor who has no financial interest whatsoever in the outcome either way, other than being a member of the town, does that also apply to those types of conversations?
Yeah, so an ex parte contact is any communication with an applicant, applicant's representative, or member of the public interested in the outcome of a
So
decision.
interested doesn't mean financial interest, it just means a
Interest.
casual
Right,
passing.
because the idea is that you can't lobby the planning commission, it's an administrative decision. Now, of course, this happens, and, you know, if you happen to be, you know, um. both on the bus going to Deer Valley, and your neighbor starts talking to you and you're on the planning commission about an application that's in front of you and saying, well, why are you guys doing this or whatever? And you can't, you know, this first of all gives the planning commissioner something official to say, no, my rules do not allow me to, you know, if you have your concern, bring it to the meeting. You now have the opportunity to speak in public beforehand, to make or submit a written comment and we'll receive it. But the idea is that everyone's getting that information at the same time and not having people have separate side conversations.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, so it just says that their comments, concerns, and evidence are on the public record. Yeah, this was passed back in September by them. So, and I was just gonna find your code that just talks about how this is accepted. But while I'm looking for that, I don't know if anyone has any questions, and then also, if you want to, this should have been distributed to you. Another version of it was given to you earlier. I added a few things for this discussion. In terms of the number of members at the different cities and whether or not they staggered their terms. I think that there's more integrity with the planning commission if you don't have a quorum or for a majority of the planning commission being replaced in a single year. Which is why a lot of places stagger it, so that, you know, if you did have 7, you could do it like 3, 2, 2, for example, as opposed to 4 and 3. Some places do it, you know, having a majority, but it is very important to make sure that I think it's important to have that continuity, that historical perspective in terms of past, you know, to make sure that the commission is being consistent, but that is not legally required. Your code does say that no more than 3 members shall be appointed in a single year, currently in your code, and we can talk about that because that is part of one of the ordinances.
But that's based on a 5-member.
That's based on a 5-member. I left that in there, just because but we can change that, or if we want your input on that.
Well, that's interesting because I think Mayor Rubin replaced the entire planning commission in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, 2018.
Yeah, I can go back and look. He did replace many of
Part
them,
of that, yeah.
but I don't know that he
That passed the
replaced
council.
everyone. I think Dean
Well, it was
resigned.
more than 3.
So, in any case, in terms of the rules and regulations, you have 302080 that says the planning commission shall submit to the council rules and regulations subject to the provisions of the laws of the state and the planning and zoning ordinances of the town to provide for the regulation of its procedure and conduct of its duties, and may submit amendments to such rules from time to time to the council. So the way it just reads is that they submit it to you. Of course, if you want to be the ones that approve these, then you would have to just change that portion of the code. But right now, we were following what the code says, it just says that they submit it to you. So that's what's been done here. Any questions on that, or do you want to move on to the ordinances?
Well, I have a couple of comments. One, in this particular version of what's the write-up here, I'd like to see where it defines the duties of the chair. And that being a little bit more closely involved with working with the mayor, whomever mayor that is. I think that was the essence of what a good chair should be doing. And I don't see any evidence of that, whether it's me or the next mayor or the next mayor. I think that should be a key part of what the chair does. And it also says training in here before the first vote. So I want to be practical on this. If we had a 7-person planning commission and no alternates, how could we kind of guarantee that they would have training before they voted, or they wouldn't be allowed to vote? So then my next question is the training that's available, is that immediately online? Let's say we appoint someone tomorrow or today to the planning commission. Next week or the week after is the planning commission. Technically, they cannot vote unless they take a training course. Suppose nothing's available. And so I'm not quite sure if that's feasible in a 7-person. Might be feasible where you have alternates, but not in a full voting sense. Otherwise, you just denied them a vote. And so what are we accomplishing at that point?
Yeah, your code says, so that's a good point. The way your code reads, so this is more restrictive than your code. That you have to, you have 60 days from appointment. So.
But that could mean, if you missed voting for 2 meetings.
Right, under our code, so
Yeah.
what they're,
Yeah.
so that's.
And I definitely I personally would like to see the training. I'd like to hear what everybody else feels about that. Take it as soon as possible, but if you do it within 60 days, you're given your right to vote. So how do we solve that problem?
Yeah, I mean. That we can bring that up to the planning commission for sure. Those are 2 very good points. I mean, they do just have to do 2 hours of training beforehand, but that's a good point.
Well, we have a planning commissioner here. Can we hear from Brad?
Certainly. What I was gonna say is after I was appointed in August and you read the instructions, that go ahead and get trained fast or you don't count. So you can go on to the Utah League of Cities or whatever, and it'll throw you to the Strong Towns Academy. And it took about like 4 hours. I got my certificate, to go through and be trained on, in your town, your plan. It wasn't that hard. There's also, I think they've got about, I want to say about 6, 7 different seminars that you can go ahead and listen to and get trained on those and get a certificate without costs. There are some with costs, but it wasn't that hard to go ahead and set, to fulfill the requirement.
So that was an on-demand training? It wasn't scheduled, you could.
Correct, I just did
get on and.
That's right.
And it keeps your place until you finish it. So.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
So it wasn't that bad.
It's possible here, just.
So I have a couple of thoughts. If we were to go down this particular road, I'd like to see the addition of familiarity with the Open Meetings Act. I think that's pretty important for each member of the planning commission to be familiar with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. In terms of vacancies, I like the idea that the mayor, whoever that is at the time, with the advice and consent of the council, would fill the vacancies. And then my last thought is more of a question. Does this change 3.02.030, which is removal of planning commission members, or does that remain intact?
No, we're not based on the input that we received from the council, we did not propose an ordinance changing that provision. That was a request from the planning commission that, we, that, that you remove the ordinance, which says that they should only be removed for cause, which is a well-defined term. In Utah state law, you know, in a lot of governmental entities, you have, governmental employees are kind of what they call merit employees, and you can't, the idea, you know, going back to history class is that, you know, back in Chicago, Mayor Daley couldn't just fire everyone and give political patronage to all of his buddies to come in and give them jobs, right? Like that's kind of my understanding of where those laws came from. And as a government employee, you know, that's usually you have those protections. So those type of employees can only be fired for cause. So it is a somewhat well-defined term. But I know that the mayor, you know, we looked through that list of 15, about half of them were allowed for cause and half of them didn't allow for cause. So based on what I heard from the mayor, we did not propose that change here, but if there was a majority of council that wanted to do that, the council is your legislative body and you could ask, and I can bring you that language if you want to see that.
Thanks for the clarification. I am not proposing that, just for the record, but I would like to see there is a familiarity, you know, with the Government Employees Ethics Act, which I think is great. I think familiarity with the OMA is really important as well, especially for the chair or vice chair. We're going to be conducting the meetings. No matter whether we adopt this or something different, I think those are important points.
Jonathan, can I also say that, you know, it was one of the first things that, after I was appointed, that after Alicia swore me in was, here's your Open Meetings Act training, get on it, do it now first, you know, and so that was the very first training that I took. So that came from her. I'm not sure, you know, if that was standard policy or if it just, she knew I better go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I just think it's a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
And that includes us sitting up
Yeah.
here as well. Anybody that's involved in a public meeting ought to be familiar with that act, because it's really important. So I think it's great that you did it.
Yeah.
And you have an annual requirement, both bodies have an annual requirement to do open public meeting act training.
So I think that's a good thing.
Any other comments by council members there? I don't know if Bob is still on or he might be driving. Yes, he is also. And Brian and Tanya. Any other comments from the folks online here?
No comments. Very well covered.
I have one question. Have we decided to make it a 7-member body? Or is that okay? I was going to say one of the reasons behind the alternates was it gives the ability to be a chair or vice chair. The commission wanted to have at least a years of experience under their belt doing that, and they thought that the alternate was a method of doing that. Doesn't have to be. If we make it a 7-member body, though, I think you still should make it a requirement that to be a chair or a vice chair, you have to have been on the commission for a year, just so you have that experience under your belt and the training. Right.
Anyone else?
I think I like the idea of going to 7 members instead of the alternate, just given the size of our town. I do think a staggered term though doesn't necessarily make sense to me, particularly if you have in the code that no more than 3 could be replaced in a year. So if you have a larger 7-person committee and then you have a staggered component on top of it, I mean, that can get pretty complex. I think that's overkill for where we're at in our town maturity.
And I should clarify that it's just that the terms end every, you can, every 2 years. And so the question is do you want to make it 3-2-2 if you do go to a 7-person, or do you want to have 4 and 3?
Every other year.
Every other year.
So my personal feeling is do a 4 and 3. Don't overly complicate this with every year having to have some appointments or whatever. So basically keep it the way we have it. We're just adding 2 permanent members. And we probably should have done that with alternates anyway, but we never did. So there's time to fix this. And you never know how many I mean, the whole commission could literally resign in the year, so you can't really have any control on that one. So, people move out of town, if all 7 commissioners moved out of town, you have to appoint new ones, right?
Like Tony.
Yeah, exactly.
You could annex where they live.
That's an easy thing to do.
I don't think you would want that.
One other thing was they put in that you had to be 18 to serve on the planning commission, which isn't in our code. I had a personal, the idea of like that my 16-year-old daughter would consider being on a planning commission made me laugh, so that was, but sure.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, so that's in there.
So before we go on, is there any thoughts about, anybody else have any concerns about the 7-member? I listened, I heard Brian, to the point, to say that it's a good training ground. Having been on a couple of planning commissions, and the first planning commission I was on, there was no alternates at all. And there was no concept of that. It was, if you got on, you voted, you did your job, you attended, and you participated. I'm thinking that is the right way to go, because it just, some of the comments I heard from alternates, including Brad, and I've heard it from Catherine, it's like, well, what am I attending these meetings for if I don't have the right to vote? So I personally think it'd be improvement.
I kind of echo that as someone who started out as an alternate on the planning commission and then a regular member. You do kind of have that feeling. And I think it makes it easier for people to dedicate themselves to the position if they know they're gonna vote and their vote matters.
And maybe that will, stimulate them to not, I'd reduce that 60 days down to, if you're a full-time member, you've got maybe 2 weeks, I mean, if you're gonna volunteer for this, you can't put 4 hours into over the course of the first few weeks before your first meeting. Otherwise, you may miss some things that you should know about land use before you go into that meeting. I mean, I went through the training, what was required at that point 7 years ago. Then state changed the law based upon cities with I think under 5,000 people. I see some nods from Mason, which I would never agree to something like that, but why, I don't think that served, personally, I don't think that served planning commissions anywhere, but maybe they couldn't get enough people to volunteer or whatever. But I think we keep the training, and we just make it sooner, for before your first meeting, you gotta have the basics down at least. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So when did the online training start? Because I went in person. Did you go in person too?
I think maybe it was the only way to go.
I think it was the only way. We had to go to it was an all-day seminar.
Yeah, and I remember Jerry and Sarah and
Megan.
It was Megan presenting, but Kurt
Yeah,
So there was the four of us and we had a good time going, actually. Yeah.
right, well, I went
I
by,
like that.
and I came on afterwards, but I went by myself,
Yeah.
but it was all day, I went down to Provo.
It was really useful.
Yeah, it was very
And I have
helpful.
been on previous planning commission, so in any case, but we're not requiring that, we're just requiring kind of what Brad, you took, I think, an online course and we do it at will, and you can, if you can't complete it in one day, you can come back and complete it another day. Pretty easy to make.
So I agree with Ralph, with the 2 weeks. So do we need to change our ordinance that currently says 60 days and change that to 2 weeks?
Or maybe,
Or you can put it in the rules. I mean, you can do it one place or the other, but we should be consistent about where we do it, right?
well, what we could use, one idea here is, I'm just putting this out, 30 days. If there is a planning commission meeting within that 30 days and you didn't have your training, then maybe you shouldn't vote, but you need to take that training within those 30 days to vote in the next meeting. So you're kind of stuck no matter what. Why, I mean, if you're on vacation, then, I get that, so maybe 30 days, Brian, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, with the provision that you attend the meeting if you can, but you don't vote if you haven't had your training. That makes sense.
Polly, you're capturing that?
Yeah.
Sorry, and that's for people who've never served on a planning commission before, right? But if somebody has served on a planning commission and has the experience, are you still compressing the time period?
I don't think so, because I served in New Jersey. New Jersey's laws are substantially different than Utah's. So that session, I mean, there's lots of similarities in planning, but the
it was
laws here,
to Utah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you really need to understand what Utah wants.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we have it written now is that, and now everyone should be up to date because we implemented this, and actually, I'm not sure I'm not seeing the ordinance attached to our code that says when this was adopted. But we talked about this within the last 6 months, and then we talked with the planning commission about making sure that they got their training. So, they should have, they're supposed to have their training completed at the end of each calendar year. And it applied to all current members. And so we had because it was a new law, this is what new members have to do. And then we had similar timing. I remember Tony was the chair when we implemented this. And he thought everyone could do it in 60 days. And I think they maybe didn't comply, but I think everyone now has gotten it done by the end of the year, so. So anyway, but no, it needs to be Utah. What it says is training offered by the Utah leagues of cities and town, or a list of training courses selected by the league, and the league has a big.
I think Glennis was a planning commission in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think, whether we ask her or not, she's not here, but you gotta know Utah.
We have very unique laws.
You're not kidding. But so does New Jersey.
So do we wanna go through the actual ordinances one by one, and you can decide if you wanna vote on them? We have 2 or 3 ordinances to be considered related to this. So one was first for just creating the role of a chair and a vice chair. And Maria, I don't know if you wanna
I'm okay if you wrote this up and we saw it in one form, because I want to remove this paragraph on alternates, because it doesn't really
well,
apply.
so there are 3 things happening here, right?
Okay.
One is the rules and regulations,
Uh-huh.
which under our code just says that they're submitted to you. So they have been submitted to you. You made some comments. I was going to relay those comments to the planning commission so that they could consider changing them. That's the first thing, right? That we've had up. But then next on there is an ordinance in our code, because our code is not clear about a chair and vice chair. And I think that that's caused, let's make it transparent how that works. And so I've suggested some language, you can agree or disagree with it. This is somewhat based on what the planning commission recommended in their rules and regulations. But you wanna take a quick look at that? That was in the packet as of Monday. And you can decide, or of course, you can either decide to adopt it, you can amend it, you can deny it, or you can continue it. So, we can pull that up. If you, that's kind of next on the agenda, right? So what you have in front of you, if you're able to read it that small, is the appointment of a chair and vice chair. So the only thing that well, from what I've heard already, and one thing is, I just put in March, thinking it was gonna be easier to appoint the chair in March, because it just gave some time after the craziness of the holidays. But just rereading the rules and procedures, they say the first meeting, in the new year. So maybe we wanna make it in the first meeting of the year in our code, and or no later than March or something like that. So that's just one proposed edit. Their 1-year terms, their majority vote, and it kind of is set up that if the chair isn't present, the vice chair will sit in for the chair. So if, for example, the chair resigned, the vice chair shall become the chair. And then a vice chair seat would get chosen. So that's how it's drafted. You don't have to agree to that, but that's kind of what we were proposing.
Can I ask a question, a couple of questions? Particularly with B2, officers shall be selected by a majority vote of the commission. Other than the chair and vice chair, what officers what are we talking about? Appointing additional officers to do what?
No, what I'm saying is officers shall be that the chair and vice chair, and we could change that language to just say chair and vice chair shall be selected by a majority vote.
Okay, yeah, if we could clarify that, I think that's important. And the next is C2. Officers may be reappointed without limitation. I want to make sure we're not creating a situation where we're overriding their 4-year term.
Well, it wouldn't matter if they weren't on the commission, then you're a chair. If you're a planning commissioner, if you're not on the planning commission, you can't be chair.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that we're not creating an indefinite position here that overrides the 4-year term.
The intent of that language is that there's no limitation on how many years. Some places have term limits for their chairs.
Okay, as long as we're not creating anything that goes beyond their term, I'm fine with that. I guess the threshold question is the council okay with the planning commission picking its own chair and vice chair?
And just to compare, I did look at this with our list, our table of 15 that you've been seeing in a lot of your packets. And I believe of the 15, all but one pick their own chair. Doesn't mean legally you can do it either way. But just to know what other places are doing, that's how other places have been doing.
Yeah, and the planning commission is an independent body from the council, right? So that kind of maintains that independence. I think that's okay. You also want to make sure the chair and the vice chair actually want to do the job, right?
That's right. And one thing that's not in here is the requirement that a chair have at least 1 year experience. But, so I don't know if the council wants to include that provision. It could read something like, if, I mean, I guess the one problem we could frame it so that as long as there is someone with at least 1 year's experience, that person, you have to have at least 1 year experience.
I don't know if that's necessary, to be very honest with you. This is my 2 cents anyway. When I came into the town, even though the Utah codes were different, I had experience, and a person like Glennis had experience, so you could see that person potentially actually being a better choice for the planning commission, depending on how much experience the planning commission had. So I think if you're gonna let the chair, if you're gonna let the planning commission vote on the chair and vice chair, they'd be given, they'd be unfettered on that, so to speak, but that's my 2 cents.
Well, the chair gets paid twice as much too.
There's your.
That's right, oh boy, that's a real
Yeah.
win. That'll make you rich. I'd certainly like to see a little bit more writing about the chair and what their responsibilities are, as I said to begin with. It was, if you're gonna write that up, but that's not in this, that's not in the ordinance, that's just complementary to it, so to speak. I don't have any, I have no problem with the commission appointing their own, electing their own chair and vice chair. But it should be by and including the meeting in March.
Okay.
So this gives some latitude and doesn't force the January, because if the mayor and council are appointing, you may not have enough time to identify any of the replacements and those changes. So it gives a little bit more latitude to, appoint new commissioners, give those commissioners a time to associate with the planning commission, and then the planning commission then voting on it and giving them a little bit of leeway here. So by and including the March meeting of each year.
Well, who runs those meetings until then?
The existing chair and vice chair.
Well, not if they get reappointed. If they don't get reappointed, Brad, you bring up a good point. Then you could have an interim, so to speak, at that point. So, let's say the chair moves out of town in January. First.
And the vice chair, so if the chair,
That's a good
the
point.
vice
That's a good
chair.
point. That's a good point, yeah. So so
And
that
then-
would cover that, yeah.
I can't.
Unless the vice chair decides to move up to January 1 as well, then the mayor should step in and the council would say,
There's an
hey,
interim.
go back to square one and we'll appoint someone there to.
I think that's where, I think that's where the provision
minutiae.
states that the mayor, with the advice and consent of the council, appoints and fills vacancies.
Yeah, and that may be the only way to deal with that situation, if the chair and vice chair moved out of town on January 1.
And just be aware, these are
Or resign.
officers within the planning commission, so a little different. It's not like, since we have two lawyers here, it's not like the Supreme Court of the US where the presiding, the chief justice, that is the position. And when the chief justice, in the case of the US Supreme Court, dies or resigns, then they appoint a new person to be the chair. That's not the case with this. This is kind of a revolving, this is more like,
Sure.
being in a committee and someone gets, in your HOA and someone gets elected president for a year. So. Anyways, so if you, your options are to, adopt this ordinance as amended, not adopt, continue this, reject it, or yeah, those are really your three options.
So I would like to see the document revised and then put out so we can have a little time to review and consider it and then vote on it.
Okay, because I've just made live changes. We can obviously do that. I didn't redline them, I just added them. That I made the planning commission shall appoint the chair and vice chair by and including its meeting in March of each year. And then I also changed,
B2.
B2.
You were gonna change officers to chair and vice chair.
And I changed B2, the chair and vice chair. And one other thing, Mayor, I'm just seeing here too, the duties of the chair are preside over planning commission meetings, sign findings, decisions, and recommendations of the planning commission when required, and coordinate with city staff regarding agendas and meeting materials. And you could also put in coordinate with the mayor, or if that's something, or if you just prefer to keep that in.
Yeah, so if you look at what's happened over the past 7, 8 years is the chair has had at least a monthly meeting with the mayor. So that's just been tradition. I think that's a good thing to actually put in here. You don't have to have, say that you must have a monthly meeting or call, but they need to work together closely. That's part and parcel of how we should be getting things done. So how we phrase that is important because the chair of the planning commission to me is one of the if not the second most important person or certainly one of the top executives in the gym. So how do we put some words in there if there are words already to make sure the mayors, so to speak, and the planning commission and the chairs work together well for now and in the future. So if you want to add something or
we can just put in that the duties of the chair is to meet with the mayor at least monthly.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
Is that the council? So?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Thank you.
B3.
Okay, so I've also added for I've created E4, meet monthly with the mayor as duties of the chair.
Yeah, if you could just elaborate, meet monthly to discuss pertinent issues.
Put in pertinent planning issues. Meet monthly to discuss pertinent planning issues with the mayor. And I should also just note that I also added, I noticed when I was looking into this, that the state code has changed their chapter for what we call MLUDMA, which is the municipal land use. I'm forgetting what it stands for. I have to write it out, but it changed from 9A to 20. So I just changed that reference in the code. Land Use Development Act. Had to write it out.
If we're gonna vote, I'd like to kind of go through the final language so that we understand what we're voting on.
So if you want, I can recite for you the 3 changes that have been suggested.
Please do.
B1. And you have it up, right? So B1 is the planning commission shall appoint a chair and vice chair by and including its meeting in March of every year. B2, the chair and vice chair shall be selected by a majority vote of the commissioners present. And I've added E4, duties of the chair meet monthly to discuss pertinent planning issues with the mayor.
So how do we take into account if we want to move to a 7?
That's another ordinance.
That would be another, we can't include it in here.
No, we have another
Oh,
ordinance.
do we have another? Oh, do we actually wrote that up? Okay. I must have missed that.
And I'm actually just my English teacher, echoing in my head, I'm changing it to meet monthly with the mayor to discuss pertinent planning issues.
That sounds fine. Polly, do you want to change C2 and 3 officers back to chair and vice chair as well?
Sure.
The same with 3, I think.
Yeah, the
So
same,
what-
same as with B2, make the same changes in C2 and 3 and C2 and C3.
I will change any reference to officer
Yeah.
to chair, vice chair,
Yeah, thank you.
if that's what you guys want.
I'm just channeling Jonathan.
So do you guys, it's up to you to make a motion. You can motion to adopt as amended, you can motion to deny it, or you can motion to continue it.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we adopt it as just discussed, the amendments just discussed.
I will second.
John,
Yes.
can you?
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
okay, that's.
Next, we have,
For some reason, I don't see this in my particular packet, maybe I missed.
I sent the one to change the number of, planning commissioners yesterday.
458, yes.
And I prefaced it in an email saying that this was at the request of the mayor. And that, of course, because it's so late, if you guys want to not vote on it this month, we can just do it as a discussion item. Can you pull it up? Or-
It's not in this packet.
Yeah, it's not in this packet.
It's not in this packet.
That's right, that's why I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
So,
it's not.
can you, if it's really short, maybe we can vote on it, if it's too long and needs too many, wait a second.
It's
Is that,
pretty,
So
is that in there?
you said at 4:58 PM?
you want me to share my screen?
I'd like to have the email so I can kind of scroll through it.
That's up here, it's already on the screen right here. Right, is that- Right.
Changing 302-101. Yeah, that looks like
When,
it.
when was it sent to us?
It was sent,
Is that 4:50, Wednesday at 4:58 PM? Ah, I think it is. I've got it now.
I didn't get anything until 5:30.
Oh, sorry.
Mm.
So that's, yeah, so Polly sent that out, it looks like 458,
4:58 on Wednesday.
right, correct, to everybody.
Yeah. You don't have it either, right?
Not in this packet, so I may have not had.
I just grabbed it from the town website, so, because I didn't get an email.
That's what I did.
That's where mine's from.
Yeah. So maybe.
Yeah.
Holly, whatever's on the website is the same that you sent us then? I just want to make sure we're all looking at the same document.
yeah, this document hasn't been changed.
Okay.
And it's pretty straightforward, but of course, if you want more time, you're, this is very last minute, which I know you don't want to do. So I was changing, the composition, and so I just changed the name from creation to composition and term of planning commissioners for the title because that seemed more descriptive. I changed the 5 to 7. I took out, the initial terms because we're now 16 years later. So just seemed to be confusing, and I just put on every even number year in the month of January. So that all is the same. I also said it should be staggered in such a manner that no more than 3 terms expire in a given year, which kind of forces you to do 3, 2, and 2. But if you wanna change that to 4, you could. And then I removed, I'm going down to the next page. So everything else is the same. And then I removed the paragraph about the alternates. And then the other 2 provisions just took out including alternates. So they didn't really change anything. I did a search for where alternates were referred to in this section of the code and.
Under section 3.3, we've got this 60 days. Did we decide a preference for something shorter than 60 days after appointment?
Yeah, I think we were saying 30, right?
Yeah, we could change that here because we noticed this, so.
Well, if we go to, I mean, the reason we moved to 30 was because we would make everyone a full, full voting member. So
Right.
if we kept alternates, then that wouldn't be so critical. But if we go to, I think if we go to, your vote counts, then they should take the training.
Or then I think it should be within 30 days.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay, so you'd like to
What happens
change,
with the existing 2 alternates? Do they just automatically now become full members, or do they have to go back and be reappointed and go through training? Like, how does anything need to be addressed with respect to their current status?
yeah, that's a great question. I think that just to make it official, you should, at your next meeting, if the intent is to appoint the current alternates to become full members, we should just go through that formality.
At the next town council meeting?
Yes.
And you can't just add a sentence in here, Polly, that says with respect to the existing 2 alternates, they are henceforth considered members.
You could, I mean, that would be another way to do it by that mean, because you would still have a vote of the council. Generally, it's, appointment by the mayor. The mayor doesn't necessarily get to vote on this, but I think we could do it that way too. Then you're gonna have that in your code in perpetuity, but yeah, sure. It's as you guys like.
Seems simpler, but whatever the group wants.
Well, it's simpler in that we don't have to do something after this. It's done now, so to speak. So that makes life simpler, I guess. Except there's gonna be a sentence.
Except it's going to be in there in perpetuity, like the
Yeah,
the
but
one from-
it doesn't matter if it's in perpetuity. I mean, it ends any
No.
confusion around the status of the current people as of the date of adoption of this. So
That's true.
I think that's actually more important. Yeah.
We could also say all alternates as of the enactment of this amendment shall become full members, if that's.
Yeah, I like that better.
Is that it's just one time.
Yeah.
Because it's as of the enactment date or the effective date, I guess.
Right.
So you wanna just add that as another paragraph, making that paragraph 4, or removing the old paragraph 4?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think. that
Or
makes
you
sense.
could, I mean, yeah.
I'd rather not carry this over to another meeting and just say exactly this. Folks that are alternates are, as of the date of this resolution approval, that they're
They're made full members.
they're full-time members.
And then how does that affect their term or not?
There's only, it's you and Kat.
I'm right here.
I know.
There.
So it's Catherine and Brad right now. They just would be now, and they should be full-time. But
Well, technically, they would be, I mean, it would be nice for you to. Sure,
No, please finish your.
Tell them.
No, well, right, I mean, it's.
I can tell you, Kat wants to be a full-time member.
No, absolutely. It's just kind of that formality of, you know, anytime there's a vacancy, you officially appoint the alternate for that seat. And that does raise the other question of, and I don't know if you want to do this by resolution or if we want to put this in here. You know, what do you want to make those terms? How do you want to stagger those terms so that we have clarity? Because right now, we have 2 commissioners who are
That's true.
expiring in
That's a good point.
26, and you have 3 commissioners that are expiring in 28. So do you want these
I
2?
thought about that, so I'm thinking, Brad's term goes to 30 and Cat goes to 28. So, and then we do a 4 and 3 split and worked out when I did the math on paper. So, we could, again, do that. I was thinking about this before when I was home. And I said, we could just make, one of the 2 has to go to the second year. So that, we could make Catherine as the last alternate. She goes to 2028, Brad goes to 2030. And we do a 4 and 3 split and, you're up in 4 years and she's up in 2. Pretty simple. Just a question of the number of folks that would be appointed in 2028 would either be 3 or 4. I just don't know which.
It'll be 4, so we can change
Okay.
section 1 to say no more than 4 terms expire in a given year.
Per.
And then it sounds like the consensus is that we're putting in alternates, alternates that were sitting at the time of the enactment of these, this ordinance shall become regular, what we call them, members of the planning commission. I added that as 4. You see now my page and screen.
Where are you?
Maybe I just put up what's already here. Thought I just put it up, but I was, oh, maybe I didn't hit share. Can you see where it says number 4 now, alternates that were sitting at the time of the enactment of this ordinance shall become members of the planning. Let's see, up there, I'm gonna just.
It's right here. It's in there.
And then I changed 4 to 3. And then did you wanna change 3 to 30 days or leave it 60?
No, I think we should move it to 30.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree too, 30.
Why do lawyers always write out numbers?
Because we're taught that in school.
Yeah, so you can't think with it. You can play with a number, but it's really hard to play with the words. That's why you put it on a check, why you write the amount of a check in words.
Ah, okay.
I just want to make the legislative intent clear. There's no intent to change in any way section 3.02.030. That's the removal for with or without cause by the.
It's not in here, so.
Right. I just want to make that clear for the legislative history. Well, I'll move that we adopt these amendments to the town code as the town attorney has edited them as they appear at this moment.
Second.
Carol,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
You say, Bob, if that is, you're calling on me, the answer is yes.
okay, and then Brian,
Yes.
Yes.
okay, motion carried, so we accomplished something for the planning commission that's been sitting around there for
A long time.
4 months, so to speak. So we also may need some new planning commissioners as well, but we can tackle that at another time. Is the next item up after number 8? We're now talking about the council meetings for 2026, starting at 5 p.m.
Yeah, so you have that codified in your code, so I just changed the time from 6 to 5.
Is that okay with everyone? Brian, particularly, and Tanya, I don't know if you can make the 5 o'clock, but it gives us an extra hour, so we don't have to go home that late, so to speak. So is that
Yeah, I always enjoy an extra hour of pain.
Welcome to the club.
Tanya, is that still okay with you?
Yep, good with me.
Okay. And Bob, you have such a bizarre schedule. I'm not sure really it impacts you one way or another, but any comments?
I'm either here or I'm not here. And the earlier the better, as far as I'm concerned. Heck, you could do it at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so is there a motion by anyone?
Yeah, I motion we adopt the town council start time change as proposed.
1 second, I know poor Maria is really multitasking here. Can you just pull up the ordinance? So that they-
It was the dates as well, wasn't it?
Right.
So
Is it still gonna
Still
be second Thursday?
that hasn't changed, I don't think.
No.
Yeah, we only want to change the time, not the day. These are all Thursdays.
Yeah, the only edit is changing it to, so this is the ordinance that sets the time. Oh, there are 2 ordinances in front of you. So the first ordinance is in your code 110050, says 6 o'clock currently. So now we're changing that. So the whole world, if they look at our ordinance, at our municipal code, they see that the start time is 5 o'clock. Of course, that can change, you can do special meetings, whatever, but that's what it's set for,
These are regular meetings, right?
regular
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah.
And it's and you're supposed to reserve the 4th Thursday. And then Maria has put together, so can you vote on, so you wanna vote on that one real quick?
Yes,
So Brian, I think, motioned, was there a second?
I'll second it.
Carol,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Jonathan,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
okay. Motion carried. So the second one was,
Just
Maria
got-
put together just an ordinance. By state law, you're required to have an ordinance establishing your meeting dates or times and dates. And it's always a little weird. It's required to be an ordinance. We don't put it in our municipal code, but it's required to be an ordinance. So that's why we do it this way.
So, the one question I had on the Thursdays, I know last year and the year prior, we went through all the Thursdays and, tried to understand if it landed on a holiday or anything, or Maria, did you vet that out? Are we okay on
I
these?
did that with Kathleen, bless her, yeah.
So we're good on 2026 for that?
Yeah,
Yes.
my only comment on this one was tonight's meeting shows it starting at 5 PM and it really started at 6, right?
What-
The very first meeting of the year is on the old schedule, time-wise.
Well, we started at 5, but technically a closed session counts as a meeting, correct? Because we opened it
Yeah, we
up,
opened
we
it up
opened it up as a
public
general.
But
meeting.
yeah, it's fine, and you can even change, I mean, if for something comes up and you can't start your meeting till 7, you can change it, right? You're allowed to change it, or if you don't have a quorum,
Oh, yeah. right.
right?
Yeah,
The idea is to have a set time that you're expected to be there, so.
that's fine. It's history at this point anyway.
Yeah. So, same thing here. Do we have a motion to adopt the
I'll move.
Thursday schedule? Carol moves. There's a second.
I'll second.
And Jonathan beat you to it. Brian?
Yes.
And you-
Right.
Yes.
We pass every restaurant in Concourse, including.
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Moving on, we have not, that was,
so hopefully this will be just as easy. So the next one is the construction hours. So Alicia actually found this, and this was on your agenda back in September, I think, and just kept getting punched because it's just that there was an inconsistency in our code. So basically what happened was I'm trying to remember, I think we have it here. On May 8th, we amended our engineering manual, and in it updated hours of construction operation. And then we have our hours in 2 different places, and we wanted to have them be consistent with each other because they weren't. And so in order to make them consistent with each other, and with the engineering manual, I suggest that you change, so the hours of construction, what was agreed to back in, what was that, May? What you guys discussed was having construction hours be 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, or 10 to 5 on Saturday or Sunday or holidays. We don't want it just to be the federal holidays, we want it to be all holidays. And then, there was also a little bit of confusion because when we adopted the engineering standards, we never adopted the changes to the actual 100432 code. So this is also just a cleanup, just to make sure that everything is consistent, so that you have this in 3 places, in your code, and they're now consistent in all 3 places.
Could we just tweak it to say all state and federal holidays?
Sure, that's what the council wants.
so I don't want to throw a wrinkle into this, but, so I looked at a number of towns, and we are the most restrictive. I've also gotten called by some developers who said that the nature of our tightness of hours causes issues with workers having enough time to be here at the job site, and recruitment and some other things in terms of the number of hours paid. I'm passing this on because it did make some sense. And as I looked at Heber, Midway, Camas, Salt Lake, Colville, Summit County, and Wasatch County. Of all those, we by far have the most restrictive. I'm not saying what we should do or not do. I'm just bringing out some comments for discussion here. And maybe this is the wrong time to make the discussion. Maybe we should revisit this, but there are some concerns by the folks that, that they don't have enough time. And not only that, there were some good arguments that I heard. One was that by shortening your day, it increases the time that the building next door to you is being built. So it just takes, your aggravation is increased over a longer period of time. I just want to bring those things up because that's what I heard this week on this subject. So you can do whatever you want at this point.
Well, addressing the issue that it takes longer. Construction is gonna go on forever and ever in this town. So it's just a continual thing. I mean, there's not a cutoff date when the construction's gonna stop because we have so many empty lots. We have so much more development to be done.
I think you missed the point. So the point that the developer was saying was that by cutting down the number of hours that you're building your home,
Right.
that it will take more time.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying, but we're gonna have construction in this town going on for years and years. And, so many residents had stepped up, come to meetings, given their input that they needed the construction hours
Sure.
that we finally adopted.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So I'm just saying, that
Right.
there's 2 points of view here.
right, I get that.
And our code is the most restrictive of the seven areas that I looked at.
We're also a town, because we're built on the hillside, I think that it echoes more. I mean, I hear it all the time, way down below. 7 a.m, bam,
I'm not loving for one thing or another.
right,
I'm just sharing the data
yeah.
that I have and what I've heard, so, I would just say, continue to operate on, what you've had. I'm just bringing up the data.
I would suggest that we align the differences in the two sections. And then revisit this, by noticing it up and let the residents weigh in again. And we can, if we want to open it up, we can certainly do that. If the residents want to close it up, recognizing that it will prolong the noise. But I'd like to hear from some residents on this. If I'm not opposed to anything. I just would like to hear, the residents to weigh in.
I would agree with that. I think that's a reasonable thing. The other comment I made, just from an engineering standpoint, 60 decibels is pretty low at 25 feet. A loud conversation can go to 65, easy. Normal conversation can go to 65 decibels. I don't think that's enforceable. I don't know how we would enforce that, and I don't know how construction crews would verify that they're in compliance.
You have
So
to have a meter at 25 feet.
I don't think we even have a light meter from what I gather. I was asking.
I doubt we have a calibrated SPL meter, right? So, and I doubt the construction crews do either. I appreciate the idea. I remember the discussion. I remember Bob especially complaining about noise, especially earlier on 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. during work days, and even earlier, just as early on weekends. So I think the timing is probably enforceable. I doubt the sound pressure level is enforceable. So that's just a common sense kind of thing. Likewise, I hate seeing the same language in 3 different places in our documents. We should write it in one place and then refer to it in the other 2. That way you only have to maintain it in one spot. just good document management, right? Configuration control.
Up to,
But-
yeah, we can.
Maybe a good idea. I like that as well. You update it once and, the links go out.
Right.
Yeah, one's kind of in our noise section, but we can, and then the other is in the hours of operation, kind of your building code section, so. And then
Yeah, I
the
would just refer back to those, Polly. I mean, and that's, which pick one as the guiding source and then have the other two refer to it.
Okay,
And I agree with, if restricted hours on the weekends are a hardship for developers, but I think I like Jonathan's comment about let's have the community weigh in because, we work for the community, right? And developers have to be good members of the community. So I think we should try to compromise on that.
Yeah, and again, Brian, my comments were only to show the data, not necessarily to take a position on this, because I'm not sure exactly what the best position would be, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we do need more input, and from both sides, maybe that becomes something we've spend a little bit of time on, because again, we are the most restrictive of the 8 locations I looked at.
Yeah, in my experience, workers are here more on Saturdays than Sundays. They certainly work longer hours on Saturdays than they do on Sundays. So, maybe a compromise is we allow 9 to 6 on Saturdays and 10 to 5 on Sundays and holidays, something like that, right?
Yeah, good point.
I think that's a
Good thought.
discussion for another day.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, definitely.
So
We should
are
get- I agree. We should get community input on that, right? Is what I'm saying.
So in terms of the code, at least to straighten this out, do we need a motion on this, Polly?
yes,
Okay.
it's an ordinance, so you
Okay.
need a
So
motion.
I guess the big question is, are we gonna refer to another document or are we going to keep it here? Brian had a suggestion. Polly, what are your recommendations on this?
I agree, I don't like legally having it. You have this exact same problem. So, we can, if you like, of this document, we could take it out of. I don't know if you want it more in the noise, it's, I guess the idea is that I guess you could take it. Maybe we could just push them together. Maybe the noise one, 504075 is a little more comprehensive. So, maybe we just remove 100432. Or we could just take it out altogether and kind of just make sure that they're together.
Where do you think it's most likely that the people doing the construction are going to find it, see it, and abide by it? Because I think that's what's important. Because it's not the residents who are doing the construction for the most part, it is the developers. And so I want to put the developers on fair notice and do it in an easy manner.
Well, maybe you put it in your building and development standards, which is the 1004. And we could just move, if you want, I can come back next month with, and cut and paste the stuff that's in 504075 and just put that in. Or we just have a reference in construction noise and hours of operation shall abide by those rules in 10. I can do it now, but I don't think we want to take another break. Up to you. Or I can.
I think-
We could do it during if you want to come back to this during the committee updates. We could,
You need time to do the work.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And I like it in one place, because when you do searches in Google, for instance, you don't want to come up with 2 different spots where that you could see two different
As
topics.
long as they don't conflict. As long as they say the same
Yeah, but
thing.
right
it's
now
okay.
they're not, yeah, I don't think they're, synonymous with one another. So Polly, are you saying you can work on this while we're talking, so to speak?
I can on the committee updates, but I can't if I'm in the spotlight, as it were.
Understood. Fair enough. Why don't
Um,
we do that then? We'll move on and you can edit during the
Yeah.
committee updates.
and we'll circle back to this, and if we can do it,
Okay.
we'll vote on it. So no, I think we're up to number 12. Appoint at least one member of council to participate in the hiring process for the new city attorney. So that's part of our code. And at least, yeah, we have 2 attorneys on council now. If you both like, if anyone would like to participate, but I'd certainly ask Jonathan and Tanya to do the interviewing of our possible attorneys through the RFP process, I think is really where this comes into play.
I would volunteer.
Anyone else?
I'm happy to help on interview as well.
Thanks, Tanya. Anyone else?
Well, if we have more than
Oh, we
two,
can't more than 2.
we have an open meeting problem.
Right, that's true.
I don't think
Well,
we-
actually, you could do the interviews separately,
We could,
so there's no requirement.
but I would like to hear Tanya's questions,
Um,
the responses to Tanya's questions, so.
So, okay, you guys, you're on board. I don't think we need anything more than that, do we?
No, that's
Okay.
it, and we can go over, Jan is kind of the one spearheading this, so, we can go over with the interview committee, kind of how that'll work.
Okay. So Jan, you've been coordinating the RFP, you're gonna coordinate this as well. Okay, sounds good. 13 is discussion and possible approval of committee appointments. This is more of a discussion, and I'll make this brief. In August, I worked on a first pass of a alignment of committees. And I didn't want to realign too many committees at that time because we were also going through an election process. Now that the election's over, I think I'll dive deeper into this, which I've already done. I know Jan and I were gonna have some discussions, and so I'd rather do this, attack this in our workshop, call it our workshop on February 10th as a topic, and I'll be better prepared to have a layout of how I see the committees being orientated. I think we just went through the planning commission, so that's kind of a done thing. These are more on the committee side. Has anybody got any questions on the council on structuring of committees and that piece? And if anybody has any input, I'll take that before as we move into the February 10th meeting.
I just have one committee or group that I just want to emphasize that it would be good to get an additional member. Is there something called the LPC with the Utah Leagues, which is the Legislative Policy Committee. And each town or city is allowed to have up to 3 members. I believe currently the members are the mayor and Jan. You're allowed to have an administrative person, but you can have another council member on there. Or another person, but I think prior it had been Councilmember Bear. So since she's no longer on the council, I would recommend that you appoint a 3rd person, another council member to be on that. It meets.
I can update you on that. So I had a discussion with the mayor. He suggested talking to Jonathan and Brian. And we already, just in the discussion, we thought Brian would be great. He was willing, able, and we substituted.
Okay, so I guess then it's informational for the rest of council to know that you have 2 council members and Jan on this very important committee that kind of keeps up with what's going on in the state legislature.
Well, was it one council? Is it three?
It's
Oh, it's
total of
two.
3 people altogether,
Mhm.
and you can appoint. They don't all have to be council members. I can't remember exactly what the rules are, but how we had it before was 2 elected officials and your town administrator.
So I'm one, Jan's one, we would have then,
Ryan is now one.
okay,
And they're typically lunch meetings. They're periodical and the voting part is kind of broad scope. They ask opinions, like would this be beneficial for your town or
I thought it was more survey kind of stuff, like give me,
it's survey oriented.
so when's the first meeting, Jan?
The 12th on Monday
What
at
time?
noon.
We're not restricted to, are we, okay, so if anyone else wants to join, including the entire council or anyone else. Jump in, I would
Yeah.
say, maybe the more votes we have on some
No,
of these.
you're only allowed to have a certain number.
Oh,
of
do only 3 people count, is that what you're saying?
Only 3 people can vote, yeah.
And the vote again is not really, it's not affecting directly legislative policy. It's an opinion to guide the league.
Right.
Okay, so Brian, you're on for.
Yep.
Is there a Zoom? Can you send that or I don't know.
You will get it in your email because
I didn't,
they know.
for this Monday?
I'll forward you
I didn't see anything that shows up on my calendar.
it's it's not on your calendar. They send you email. I'll forward you
But
my,
usually then it gives you an ICS link or something like that. and
right.
Automatically populate your calendar. So
Yep.
I didn't see anything in either of those cases. We can talk about that tomorrow.
Okay.
Make sure that Brian and I have that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And just as for informational purposes, KPCW, all during the legislative system updates what's going on
Yes.
on their morning news. So you can, and probably some of it's carried over to the noon news, but you can always follow it.
But you said Monday noon is the first one.
On the 12th.
Okay. Thanks, Carol. All right, town council retreat. You wanna say some words on that, Jan?
February 20th, or sorry,
Yeah.
February 10th. And we just have a draft agenda. We're looking for a plenary speaker or something of that nature. So, we just have a draft agenda, probably starting at 1 with a lunch meeting. And then there's public outreach that begins at 4 o'clock, and that's continuation of the general plan update, which city design will be there hosting, and it should go from 4 to 7 on the public outreach portion.
And this gets live streamed to the public then, since we have a quorum present?
We haven't covered that detail.
Okay.
But yeah, it's open to the public.
Notice it up and.
And in our previous retreats, we have live streamed the open meeting part of it. That's a good question on the outreach.
Well, the newsletter's coming out tomorrow because I just did send my last edits into Carol today, so it should have been out, but there's a section in there. I reference it as well. But I think, but if not, maybe we have a special newsletter, short, 2 paragraphs again, emphasizing, because you get the big newsletter, you get buried into all this stuff. We really wanna make sure that everybody's aware that February 10th, between 4 and 7, come over to Black Rock and, share again, because we had a great turnout last time.
We did.
Yeah, so let's shoot for the, as they say in biz, let's beat the last turnout.
Right.
Jan, you're gonna take care of that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's the last item on here. There's some committee updates. I don't think Thomas is on the line. I can tell you, Jonathan, you wanna say anything about the wildfire?
Just real briefly, The permanent fire station is still on track, as far as I'm aware, to be operational and functional by the end of this year. So that's terrific news. They are currently working on a preliminary evacuation map, which, as any emergency planner will tell you, the first casualty of any event is the plan. But at least we'll have something to start with. In reality, the evacuation will be conducted according to someone in a uniform pointing that way. But at least we'll have a preliminary map at some point that will integrate with the counties. I was hoping to hear from Thomas as to whether or not we have a member of the planning commission here.
Yeah, that's right. I was gonna say, Brad, I passed you because it had Thomas on here, but do you wanna say anything about the planning commission? Any insights that you wanna hear?
No, but on the evacuation plan, it'd be interesting to also include shoreline floor,
Well, everything will be included. Yes.
so.
So, once it's platted, that's when they can start planning. Did the fire station get the all
Yes,
necessary
sure did.
approvals?
Yes.
So they're fully permitted,
Yeah.
so that when the building arrives, they can go to
They can go
town.
to-
No, I think that they need to do a subdivision.
Mm.
Thomas would be helpful in this discussion, but I recall, I think the rezone got approved, but now they have to come back and do a subdivision. He was gonna work with the fire marshal to have that happen. And then also I know that coming up, so the next meeting is not on their regular meeting date, which is typically the third Thursday. Instead, they switched it to January 25th.
27th.
Yeah, that's
I think
27th.
it's January 27th.
Oh, Thomas.
There you are.
Jump on. We were giving an update on the fire station. Hopefully I wasn't giving bad information.
No, you're right. We're looking at January 27th for the next planning commission meeting, but we'll be bringing the rezone for the fire station to the town council in February.
And Thomas, does the fire station, does the fire district need to come in with a subdivision application?
They'll come in with a subdivision application after that, so that they have a subdivision application that divides their land from the potential public works land. Yeah.
Any potential hitches, glitches, or problems with jumping through all those hoops in a timely fashion?
No.
Excellent.
No, because they're proposing to come in for subdivision in March, and then they're hoping for potential construction in April, May. So this is the exact timeline that we had anticipated, and it's the same timeline that they had anticipated as well.
Terrific.
Anything else on the planning commission, either one of you?
I think, Thomas, do you want to tell, do we know what's on the agenda for January, or is that still up in the air?
No, for January, we may have potentially Wild Horse subdivision, but they may postpone that until February. So we're waiting for their application over the next couple of days. That may be February.
Didn't we also have some training too, Thomas?
We have training in February,
Okay.
where we have the state representative for land use planning coming in February. So yeah, we decided to wait 1 month to get through some stuff in January, and so we're doing that in February.
Okay, thank you both. I was gonna add a little bit on the wildfire committee, because I've been in touch with Lauren Major, who's kind of doing a fair amount of the coordination, and Jan has as well. Right now, they're really pushing to get their information up on our web so that everyone can start understanding how they can be more active, and from thinking about defensible space to getting out of town So we're still being held up a little bit on that, but hopefully we can get their information, which the committee prepared, and get it up on our website. So anything to add, Jen?
I would just add a reminder to the public that, under our new ordinances, you can no longer plant new plants within 5 feet of any foundation. You cannot refresh, any combustible materials within 10 feet of your foundation. And that you cannot replace or plant any new trees within 10 feet of your foundation. And all of that is intended to make us, more wildfire resistant. I think the more times we say that to public, more people will hear about it.
So the wildfire committee is probably the most active committee that I've seen at this point, and maybe the transportation committees. Between what, the grant process is going, seems to be the most active, so, it's great. I don't have, let's move on here. The EDC, we're talking about potentially restructuring the EDC, so that'll come out, through some other kind of business committee. Post committee, I don't think we have any report on either, and that may be subsumed into another larger committee.
Actually, Jan, the boat thing.
Oh.
We do have a committee meeting planned that's partially closed in March to talk about.
It's more transportation.
It's more transportation.
Because
It's the committee, so we do in March, March 10th, we have a committee meeting. 2-hour committee meeting with state people and with MAG people, so.
On transportation across the Jordan.
That and just some, and we've also talked about some other issues, yeah, so there is a meeting planned.
So, while we're talking transportation, and trails, whatever, we can, the last two committees here. I understand that MIDA is actually piloting a program, for, ski transportation in the MIDA area. And they've gathered up resources, and they're putting money into, picking up and dropping off to at least Deer Valley East Village. So we are part of MIDA. We have some other possibilities going forward. So I may call Paul Morris up and see if we can't be an adjunct to getting what this pilot's doing for all the homes that they're building. And they're getting some transportation for, I don't know how, I'm not sure how this is laid out, but I got the email that was published to all the homeowners in the MIDA area of Deer Valley East Village, and I said, wow, this is really cool. And if we could leverage off of that, and because I think what they did was they hired a company, can't remember what company, I don't have all the details. I saw the email and the fact that it's a pilot and that MIDA is funding it. So, we are in the MIDA district as well.
Right.
So, and
I actually went to committee meetings, gosh, I wanna say it was right after COVID. And they were talking about running a transportation bus that would go to mostly it was East Village, but I think it came across it went through the portals. So it was like a round robin kind of thing that would circulate and pick up a lot of people in the whole MIDA area. And I attended 3 or 4 of those meetings, and then they kind of stopped
well,
it.
the pilot just started.
So
So
they're actually
it's a
doing.
quote, yeah, if you read the email, it's a pilot. I know some of the people who live over there, and they said they are so happy that this is happening, this is going on. And then,
So you're saying, let's try to get it, that
let's
bus
extend
to
it,
come into
or
Hideout.
figure out what they're doing, how they're doing it, and seeing how we could either leverage off it, find some funding for You follow me? So,
Yeah.
and if, because we're part of MIDA and we might become a larger part of MIDA, potentially with the Larry H. Miller project, you know, we could leverage them, so to speak. Now, I'm not even saying it could happen this year.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, boy, that would be, I know enough people that would jump all over this.
Sure.
So I'll follow up with MIDA. And if you find out anything else, maybe we
Okay.
can figure that out.
Yeah.
As well, and be happy to confer with you.
Okay.
Okay, anything else that you're?
No, I mean, the buses are running, you know, from Richardson Flat. But they're not going to Canyons, they're just going to Deer Valley and they're going to Park City Resort. So, but you could pick up a bus, I think, at Park City Resort and take it over to Canyons. Or you could pick it up at Old Town Transit Center and take it to Canyons, but there's a lot of transferring.
Yeah.
There's nothing direct to Canyons, in other words.
And that's why having something that would
Yeah.
serve our community,
Yeah.
would be, you know, well
Right.
received, I bet.
Oh, definitely.
There's no doubt, I mean, you know, I just don't know if we can pull it off
Right.
this year.
And actually, we're meeting with Caroline's coming to the meeting on March tenth. So High Valley Transit will come there too. So,
Great. We should, you know, in between now and then, we should definitely figure out what they're doing, for that community that's in pilot mode, because MIDA's got a ton of money.
right, okay,
Okay, so, anyway, enough on that. We have one set of minutes on the Canvas side of things, I think. Did everybody get that in the pack?
Yes, you have one set of minutes that's been uploaded, two were listed, and honestly, yeah. It was
I only
left
saw
off,
it.
I tried to add it, and, I just couldn't add it, so.
No big deal. Any comments on the Board of Canvassers meeting draft minutes? Okay, do we wanna approve any motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the Board of Canvassers meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Jonathan?
I have no knowledge about them, so I have to abstain.
Oh, it was in the packet.
Yeah, I just don't know. I can't judge whether or not they're accurate or not, because I don't have any information.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. And
I'm sorry, I'm in the same boat as Jonathan. I know nothing about him either.
Bob. May not be available here. He may have dropped. So, well, then that comes back to, Carol, so you vote on this? Yes.
Yes, I'll say yes.
Okay, and Ryan,
Yes.
so we have two abstentions and two yeses. How does that work, Paul?
So,
Then I guess you could vote Eric as a top, as almost.
Well, I read them and I would say yes.
and if you've watched the meeting, right, I mean,
Yeah,
that's another thing,
that's
you have to be present if you've watched that meeting as well.
Well, I attended it.
And you attend to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
We were there.
I was there.
We were all there.
Yeah, so, I'll say yes, and does that carry them? Get that off our docket. Polly, we're back to you, then we're at the end of the,
Yes.
we're at the end of all the agenda items, so
Where got this?
which one? Follow up,
Just
I only see
some
this.
quick work here.
This one's all.
Let me share my screen.
Why is it off? She gave it to us.
That's you. I have this one, the Board of Canvassers, that's in the packet.
Right,
I never got this one.
well, I didn't get it either, but she.
No, and that wasn't uploaded, so I printed it, but it wasn't
So
uploaded.
we shouldn't vote on,
No, not the 12-3.
Just the
Just the
canvassers.
canvassers, right.
Okay.
which we did.
Maria, I'm
Yes.
having trouble.
Okay,
Now to.
Go ahead and email it to me.
So we're good with the minutes.
Well, just while she's getting it, while it's going through the ether, I updated the date to 2026. And, I took out, the references in the noise section of our code, which is, which is um, which is under our health and sanitation section. It's under nuisance. 504, it's a section under nuisances. It has its own chapter, that's quite long about other noises. So for construction noise, I just had it say, see section 100432 for specific restrictions related to construction noise. And then I deleted everything else. I'm now down. Oh. Stop. Then, and hours of operation, I just merged kind of the two sections.
You scroll down a little bit.
I send you the wrong document? Okay, yeah, so keep. This one? Yeah, okay, I don't know why. It should be redlined. So then if you keep scrolling down, it should say,
Oh, I'm sure it's up here. I'm sure I have it.
You need to change simple markup to
Yeah,
full.
okay, that's,
sorry, just.
Yeah,
oh, that doesn't look like, okay, there you go. That's better. I'm like, that doesn't look like what I have on my screen. So if you just go to section 1, you can see noise go up. Okay, so you can see I took this all out and all I did was for that section, I just said, see section 100432 for specific restrictions related to construction noise. Okay, and then in construction noise, I put together everything that we had talked about and kind of just combined the two sections. The noise section had a definition of construction work. And then the noise section had, oops, I meant to delete number 3. Because we have a better, section for the exceptions. Instead of the town office may authorize extended hours, the mayor or town council or town engineer may authorize extended hours. So if you go down, Maria, to, keep going down to number 5, you can see, the exceptions. That was in the prior noise section that was just a little bit more complete, and I thought it was better instead of just saying the town office. I wanted either to make it the mayor, the town council, or the town engineer. That's what was in the noise ordinance. And then also there was something that, and then you had the decibel. Oops, where? And then I realized that I'm missing a state or federal holiday.
In number 5, could you scroll down 2 more lines or scroll up 2 more lines?
Yeah, sorry.
Number 5, should we say, this is a question, not a statement. The mayor, town council, or town engineer may authorize, should we insert temporary extended hours?
I'm just copying and pasting what we had.
Oh,
from
okay.
the
I
prior
want to be
one.
consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Could we see the section that refers to the other section?
That was the first one, so if you go up again to 504075 noise, B. Now is going to just say construction noise, see section 100432 for specific restrictions related to construction.
I'm seeing that.
Top line.
It's a little hard to see because of the building. I could. It's the first line. Above hours of construction work. I mean, if you wanted to bring it back, next month, we could do that too, so that you could review this. And then if you wanted to make other changes, you could consider that.
I'm just not seeing the part that refers to the other part. I'm sure I'm missing something, but.
See where it says construction noise? And then it
Yes.
says seek section 1004.
Ah, got it, thank you. Got it, thank you.
Is that it, Polly? Do we-
That's it.
Okay, so it is. Any comments about the comfort level you have with wording at this point?
I'm good.
Do we have a motion?
So moved that we adopt it as amended by the town attorney as it appears in front of us right now.
Is there a
Second.
Brian seconds it. Carol?
Yes.
Tanya?
Yes.
Bob's on a plane.
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, missed that. John?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. I think that ends it. Is there, speaking of motions, motion to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And that's it.
Second.
No.
I think we all said.
Tanya,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you
Aloha
all.
from Hawaii.
Welcome to Trial by Fire, Brian and Tanya.
All right. See you guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
What is this?